It's a beautiful early evening in Los Angeles. Temperature in the 70s. Sunny skies for the moment as we approach the twilight period. The lights will not take full effect for another hour and a half or so. Dodger Stadium filling up for Game 1 of the National League Championship Series as the New York Mets take on the Los Angeles Dodgers. And welcome to Los Angeles, everyone. I'm Al Michaels for Game 1 and a great matchup coming your way tonight with Dwight Gooden taking on Orel Hershiser. One thing is for certain, a week from Saturday, the World Series will begin either here or at Shea Stadium in New York, and it's the first team to win 4 games between now and then. How did these two teams get here this year? Well, the Mets were the consensus choice to win it in the National League East. And their season was really a 3-act play. They opened to rave reviews because they were 30-11, and then they got on the treadmill and played about 500 ball for 2.5 months, and then they turned it on at the end and blew away Pittsburgh and Montreal, winning by 15 in the East and winning 100 games overall. The Dodgers, meanwhile, even after they had picked up Kirk Gibson, were a consensus choice to finish 4th or 5th in the National League West. There were 2 guys who had to have good years for the Dodgers to win, you would have thought. Fernando Valenzuela was one, but he was 5-8 and spent a lot of time on the disabled list. Pedro Guerrero was another. He spent a lot of time on the DL, and you all know, of course, he is in St. Louis. So they have done it with Gibson and a lot of unsung heroes like Brian Holton and Alejandro Pena and Dave Anderson, and one very well-heralded hero who ended the regular season on a spectacular note. Orel Hershiser. We'll talk about him when we come back.
This ABC Sports exclusive is brought to you by Kentucky Fried Chicken. We do chicken right. And by Acura Legend and Integra. Precision-crafted performance exclusively at your Acura dealer.
Orel Hershiser was 9 years old in 1968 when Drysdale set his record. 20 years later, Hershiser is pitching for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And 20 years later, Don Drysdale is broadcasting for the Dodgers and watched Hershiser challenge his record last Wednesday.
So 2 outs in the 7th, and Hershiser 1 out away from putting 56 scoreless innings in the book. Hershiser sets and delivers, and a bouncer up the middle. Griffin takes him right to the bag, steps on second. The side is retired, and Hershiser has 56 innings in the book.
Orel tied the mark 2 innings later, and the streak continued into the bottom of the 10th.
The 10th inning started with, again, a standing ovation from the San Diego crowd, which was outstanding, and then it really went downhill from there because Marvell Wynn, I struck him out on a curveball, and the ball bounced over Sosa's head, and I've got a man on first, and I'm thinking, oh, no, I've got to really bear down now because I'm going to give him 4 outs.
Hershiser ready, and the 1-2 pitch is swung on, a fly ball to right. Gonzalez backs up, he's got it, and Hershiser has the record.
This is his night. I just want to reiterate my congratulations to a great guy. They call him the Bulldog here, and I think all of you have been able to witness that and see why, and at least we kept it in the family. That's the big thing.
I didn't really know about Don Drysdale until I became a Dodger. But since I've become a Dodger, Fernando has always been compared to Koufax in that era. And now that I've come along behind Fernando, I've always been compared to Drysdale. And so it's Drysdale, Koufax, Hershiser, Valenzuela. And for me to even get close to the record was just an honor because to be up there with those names of Hubble and Drysdale and Gibson and Walter Johnson, it was just, they asked me, what's your name going to be like at the top of those record books? And I said, long.
And now live at Dodger Stadium, here is Don Drysdale. Don, try to put into words what it feels like to be an athlete getting into a zone that nobody's been to before.
Well, Al, you know, it's amazing. You get out there, and really the concentration that you're thinking about, you really don't know if you're in a spring training ballpark where there's 500, 5,000, or 50,000 or anything like that. You get out there, and it's just your mind keeps working in the right direction. And all of a sudden, when you start getting yourself into a mental frame of mind, it becomes then a physical aspect of pitching. And, of course, as we have talked about many times, once you get that fine line and that fine group, you can throw the ball, I'd say 9 times out of 10, and maybe more so, exactly where you want it.
How did you feel when that string was finally snapped?
Well, it didn't really, I was happy for him. First of all, Oral is really a good kid. And, you know, I think it's every professional's dream as far as a baseball player is concerned, Al, is to get to the Hall of Fame. I'm sure it helped me get to the Hall of Fame. It was sitting on the shelf for 20 years getting dusty. And if it can help Oral and his family like it helped mine, hey, go get it.
Great seeing you again, Winder. Thank you. Thank you. So, we are set for Game 1 of the National League Championship Series, and there is Hershiser warming up to face Dwight Gooden. Back in L.A., time to meet the starting lineups, and for that, let's go to the public address announcer at Dodger Stadium, Nick Nixon.
And now let's welcome tonight's starting lineup for the Eastern Division champion, New York Mets. Manager Davey Johnson. Leading off, number 1, center fielder Mookie Wilson. Batting second, number 9, third baseman Greg Jeffries. Batting third, number 17, first baseman Keith Hernandez. Batting fourth, number 18, right fielder Darryl Strawberry. Batting fifth, number 22, left fielder Kevin McReynolds. Batting sixth, number 20, shortstop Howard Johnson. Batting seventh, number 8, catcher Gary Carter. Batting eighth, number 6, second baseman Wally Backman. Warming up with the Mets bullpen and batting ninth, number 16, pitcher Doc Gooden. And now the starting lineup of your Western Division champion, Los Angeles Dodgers. Manager Tommy Lasorda. Leading off, number 3, second baseman Steve Sachs. Batting second, number 22, first baseman, Franklin Stubbs. Batting third, number 23, left fielder, Kirk Gibson. Batting fourth, number 5, right fielder, Mike Marshall. Batting fifth, number 31, center fielder, John Shelby. Batting sixth, number 14, catcher, Mike Stosha. Batting seventh, number 33, third baseman, Jeff Hamilton. Batting eighth, number 7, shortstop, Alfredo Griffin. And warming up with the Dodgers bullpen and batting ninth, number 55, pitcher Oral Hershiser. Ladies and gentlemen, we direct your attention to the home plate area. Tonight's colors will be presented by representatives of the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. To honor America, please rise for our national anthem, to be performed this evening by world-renowned opera star Placido Domingo.
Game one coming up back at Dodger Stadium after this word from your local station. And so it is time to get it going from Los Angeles. The meeting going on right now at home plate prior to Game 1 of the National League Championship Series on a gorgeous day, twilight in Los Angeles with temperatures in the mid-70s. The New York Mets, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Al Michaels with Tim McCarver and Jim Palmer. 4 victories for a pennant. That's what these teams are looking for. It's the 20th League Championship Series since baseball split into divisional play in 1969. It's the first time the Mets have faced the Los Angeles Dodgers. And, Tim, obviously, postseason baseball is different than regular season baseball. How so in the playoffs, in your estimation?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The only thing thicker than the early morning fog here in Los Angeles is the tension in the air. And believe me, it is bountiful tonight. And I'll tell you why. I think it's the numbers of the season, the numbers of games in the season, compared to the numbers of games during the playoff. 162 games played during the season. 4 games have to be won during the playoffs, and that teetering, frail bridge that crosses over to the World Series is what one of the 2 teams, either the Dodgers or the Mets, have to cross. And I think because you have to win 4 games, the players have to take almost a football mentality, and baseball is not like that. It's more of a leisurely pace. And I think the very fact that you have to win 4 out of 7, the players having to take this football mentality. If you have a bad week during the season, you say get them next week. If you have a bad week during the playoffs, forget it.
That's the great thing about it. Every pitch, every at-bat is magnified. Let me turn to Jim Palmer and talk about the fact people always wonder how did the 2 teams match up during the regular season. Well, the Mets bombed the Dodgers. They won 10 out of 11. The players publicly like to say that doesn't mean anything. Does it?
Well, I think it does, and I think that's why Steve Sachs came up to me, who's the second baseman for the Dodgers, and said, "Do you think we have a chance? You know, we got beat 10 out of 11." Well, the way they did it, I think, put a lot of doubt in the Dodgers' mind. If you look at the Mets, they can beat you three ways. They can beat you with their offense. They led the National League in runs scored. They can beat you with their pitching, the best pitching team in the National League, and they made the least amount of errors. I look at the Dodgers, and I look at the month of September. They only hit .205, the lowest batting average of any team in the major leagues. So really what it comes down to, Al, is Orel Hershiser. He said this is an attitude adjustment game. He said, change our attitude, let us know that we can beat the Mets, and let them know that they can be beaten. Very important game, and it goes back to really 86 playoff. I think they don't, I'm talking about the Mets, they don't want to see Hershiser 3 times, so they better win in 6 if they're going to win.
And they figure to if the series goes 7. So here we go. Game 1 from Los Angeles coming right up.
The National League Championship Series. This ABC Sports exclusive is brought to you by the Heartbeat of America, Today Chevrolet. By Budweiser, Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By Goodyear Eagle Tires. Goodyear, because there really is a difference. And by Rolaids Antacid. Relief. You know how to spell it.
A real nice gesture moments ago. Fernando Valenzuela is not eligible for the playoffs. He's not on the 24-man postseason roster. He's had shoulder problems, pitched twice in September, but the Dodgers brought him out to throw out the ceremonial first pitch tonight. A man who has meant so much to the recent success of the Dodgers through the 1980s. Now the lineup tonight for the New York Mets in this first of the best-of-7 League Championship Series. Mookie Wilson to lead off, and then the young phenom Jeffries batting second. Hernandez at first base. Keith coming back from his hamstring problem. Darryl Strawberry is in right field. Kevin McReynolds, the unsung one, in left. Howard Johnson moves to shortstop tonight, and Gary Carter does the catching, batting seventh. Wally Backman is the second baseman. And Dwight Gooden is on the mound, and he loves being on the mound here in Los Angeles. So does that man, Orel Hershiser, who figures to have wrapped up the Cy Young Award. He and Danny Jackson were neck and neck going down the stretch, with David Cone figuring third in the balloting, and then Hershiser probably wrapped it up with his 59 consecutive scoreless innings. And again, in postseason this year, we will go to our inside pitch, and to find out about Orel Hershiser, let's go to Mike Schmidt of the Philadelphia Phillies.
Orel Hershiser's best asset for me is his hard curveball. I've seen Orel throw it as many as 4 or 5 times in a row to certain hitters, me being one of them. He also throws a very hard sinking fastball, which he uses to get ahead of hitters. We call it a heavy ball. He throws a very heavy ball. He breaks a lot of bats. Orel has a great feel for the game. He loves to pitch. He's great at moving around on the mound. He holds runners on well, and he's a good hitter. Possibly the Cy Young Award winner this year.
Other than that, not much.
And hasn't given up a run in 2 months, so we can take some literary license. The last time he was scored on was back on August 30th.
Back of Hershiser tonight for the Dodgers. In the outfield, we'll keep an eye on Kirk Gibson, who's bothered with that hamstring problem. Shelby and Marshall round out the outfield. Hamilton at third, Griffin at short, Sachs at second, Stubbs at first. Scioscia back of the plate, and Hershiser on the mound to face Mookie Wilson, then Jeffries and Hernandez. Wilson has taken over as the Mets' everyday center field for the better part of the last 3 years. He and Lenny Dykstra have been platooning, but they put Mookie into the lineup here when the Mets visited in late August, and he has stayed there. In for a strike, and we're underway. Wilson, one of 4 switch hitters in the Mets lineup tonight, and they also have 2 pure left-handed batters. He lines it to right, but right to Marshall. 1 out. 6 umpires work the League Championship Series. 2 down the lines, and the alignment tonight back of the plate is the veteran Harry Wendelstedt. John McSherry is at first. Cowboy Joe West at second. Dutch Rennert is at third. Bob Davidson is down the line in left field. And Paul Runge is down the line in right. So one out with the bases empty, and Greg Jeffries comes up. The young phenom called up just prior to the end of August. And he wraps one into right field for a base hit. And so if you're wondering about nerves, the 21-year-old in the minors until 5 weeks ago, he answers that question summarily.
In his first 13 games, he batted well over 400, and in his last 16 games, he's batted only 163. And on the first pitch, Jeffries wastes no time. The fastball down and in, a picture-perfect swing. The youngest player ever in the League Championship Series.
So he's at first, and he can run. In his brief stint with the Mets, he stole 5 bases, and here's Keith Hernandez. His numbers are down, and of course that has a lot to do with the fact that he was hurt. He missed a lot of time on the disabled list, which is uncommon as far as Hernandez is concerned, and he's had a little problem with his timing. 1-0, and they had to work him judiciously down the stretch to get him ready for this.
No, mainly because when he did come back the first time, he re-injured that hamstring. He said what's so tough about Hershiser is the velocity and the movement on the fastball. Not only does it have good velocity, about 90 miles per hour, it goes down. It's a tough pitch to lay off at the knees.
That's a strike, and the count is 1-1. A lot is made about games in the twilight. It's a little different this time of year because nobody is really looking into the sun. As you can see, were this the middle of July, there's a little strip of sun in right field for the moment, but that will be out of there in another 4 or 5 minutes. But it's not like a game in the middle of July by any stretch. 2-1.
Sun doesn't seem to be as glary. Of course, Manny Mota, the batting instructor with the Dodgers, said he was worried mainly because of good, tremendous fastball, tremendous curveball. You don't pick up the spin, and of course, the key to me of a good curveball is the tight spin. You don't recognize it as early. Ideal hit-and-run situation here. Hernandez loves this count. And for that reason, Jeffries at first base. Hershiser has 5 pickoffs on the year. He's got an excellent move. Only 13 runners have run against him. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised. I think you negate the pitch out with a count 2 balls and a strike. So I think Davey Johnson's going to put the hit-and-run on this pitch.
And this time he stays, and it's low. Ball 3, 3-1. Strawberry waits on deck.
Because probably why he didn't run is because one of Hernandez's great strength is really just swinging his strikes, and it looks like Hershiser a little bit of trouble with his control. So you don't want you don't want Hernandez swinging at pitches out of the strike zone.
Jeffries goes, and the pitch is hit foul off to the left, and the count is 3-2.
Ideal situation there. If it's a ball, he's going to take it. Set up the first and second.
By the way, I know a lot of you are wondering if Hershiser is in the process of perhaps extending his streak. The answer is no. I think a lot of people misconstrue it. Postseason baseball has nothing to do with regular season baseball. 59 goes into the record book, period, for one season. If he extends it next year, there'll be a special category, but the playoffs have nothing to do with extending it. 3-2 the count. 1 out. Jeffries goes again, and Hernandez fouls it away again. So still 3-2 with 1 out in the first inning. Jeffries, the runner at first, as Hernandez checks out Sam Perlazzo at third to see if Jeffries will be going again, and chances are the answer is yes. Jeffries at Tidewater, and Davey Johnson and the Mets deciding it was time to bring him up, and they had to do it before September 1st to make sure he was eligible for postseason play. Meanwhile, there is a light on somewhere upstairs.
I think it's in our booth.
Don't say that.
It was just turned off.
It's McCarver's cigar, I think. In any event, whatever the problem was, it's been rectified, and here we go again, 3-2.
Running situation again. See, he almost took off too early. When the count's 3-2 or in hit-and-run situations, you don't want to get picked off. Often the first base coach will tell you that.
And I think Bill Robinson just reminded Greg of that. It's up to the hitter to put the ball in play. It's not your responsibility to steal the base.
And again, Hershiser sends him back.
And that's a perfect example as we see the two pickoff throws of an experienced pitcher hoping that we have an inexperienced base runner. Maybe he will break too early. You don't like the situation. You know Hernandez is going to take a pitch if it's off the plate. A lot of pitchers will expand the strike zone, or a lot of hitters, excuse me. Not Hernandez.
No score, 1 out in the first inning. If you're picking us up late, Wilson has lined to right. Jeffries followed with a first pitch single, and Hershiser working on Hernandez. 3-2.
Hershiser very hard to run up, and in the league average is something like 62% of success rate. So you see those numbers; those are high. Very quick move to the plate.
There he goes, and the pitch is lined and caught by Sachs. Easy double play. After a half, Mets nothing. Dodgers coming up. And Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, the parking lot is filled. Not much traffic on the freeways. Everybody home watching the game. Sachs to lead off for the Dodgers at second base. Franklin Stubbs hits second, and Kirk Gibson will bat third in left field. Mike Marshall is in right. He's the cleanup hitter. And John Shelby, in his second year with the Dodgers, is the switch-hitting center fielder. Mike Scioscia back of the plate. The third baseman is Jeff Hamilton, who has taken over on an everyday basis. Alfredo Griffin, who came from the A's in the offseason, the shortstop. And there is Hershiser, who set the Mets down in the top of the first inning. And that Dodger lineup will face this man, Dwight Doc Gooden. 18-9, 3.19 ERA. What about Dwight Gooden? Let's get the inside pitch on him from Mike Schmidt.
Doc Gooden, there are no secrets about Doc. He throws 95 miles an hour throughout the whole ball game, from the first inning to the last. He's got a great curveball. It's important that he gets it over early in the count, because in pressure situations now, hitters can hit fastballs no matter how hard they are. I like for him to be able to get that curveball over when he's behind in the count to hitters like Gibson and Marshall. That's going to be a big key. Also, he's not good at holding runners on base. The Dodgers will be able to run on him at will. This could be important if it's a close ball game. Doc's a fair fielder and a pretty good hitter.
And I think one of the key things Mike said is that he's easy to run on, and the Dodgers, I am sure, will try to exploit every opportunity, not only against Gooden, but in this entire series. And here's the perfect man to exploit it, Steve Sachs, who could very much be the key to Dodgers' success. A lot of people talk about Gibson and Marshall, but it may come down to Sachs getting on base.
Yeah, with 42 steals, important that he does that.
And he begins with a base hit. And you can almost go to the bank on it. I think the Dodgers will try to send the Mets a very early message here by running right away with Sachs at first base and nobody out, and Stubbs coming up.
Well, great high fastball hitter Steve Sachs, and when he's at his best, he hits the ball the other way, back up the middle or to right field. Ben Hines, the hitting instructor, says he has to not hit around the ball. He has to get his hands out in front. He did. Single to right field.
If what you say is true, Al, then if you're Gary Carter, the way to combat their running a lot is to pitch out early. So if the Dodgers are going to show the Mets that they're going to run a lot, if Carter pitches out, that could thwart the stolen base attempt.
And an interesting situation right off the bat. Stubbs at the plate, and Gooden sends Sachs back to the bag.
Of course, another way is to try to get rid of the ball a little bit more quickly. That is something that Doc Gooden does not do. They tried 67 stolen base attempts against him this year. They were successful 56 times. You can see by that graphic.
Sachs becomes doubling important on the base paths because another part of the Dodgers' speed would be Kirk Gibson, but you wonder about Gibson and how much he can run in this series with his leg. Gooden has already gone there twice, and Sachs stays as the pitch misses for a ball. 1-0 the count. Stubbs is not your ideal number 2 hitter. The Dodgers are really bereft of a classic number 2 hitter. They've had guys in and out of that spot all season long.
If he could run a little more, Mike Scioscia would be the ideal guy because he's a contact hitter.
The next pitch is a strike, and the count is 1-1.
So you have Scioscia, who's a contact hitter, batting 6th, and Franklin Stubbs, who doesn't make a lot of contact, but doesn't clog up the bases in front of Gibson. So that's the best choice. So thinks Tommy Lasorda.
Sachs bluffs going, and off-speed pitch misses. Ball 2. 2-1 the count.
I think Tommy's probably thinking along the lines, here's a left-handed hitter. We have the first base hole. We'll take advantage of a full hitter. But as you said, this man strikes out a lot of times. Not a contact hitter. If they didn't platoon, Mitchie Hatcher would be a great second hitter, being able to hit behind the runner.
Good move to first base and a close play. Takes the bag right out of its moorings.
Well, Timmy talked about pitching out. Well, another way to do it is, of course, try the pickoff attempt. Sachs leaning, as we said, 42 steals on the year, trying to get that extra little bit of lean. Great angle. I don't know if that was Hernandez's glove or Sachs's momentum.
Gooden going to first base for the 4th time in this week's sequence. 2-1 the count. Sachs at first base, nobody out, no score, bottom of the 1st inning.
The Dodgers really serve their purpose whether he runs or not. Already Gooden's worrying too much about Sachs.
There he goes. The 2-1 pitch is high. The throw to second, not close.
Well, 2 things. By throwing to first base, your concentration is lacking. You're not worried about the guy with the bat in his hand. It's 3-1 now to a dangerous fastball hitter, and Sachs has stolen second base.
Easily.
Yeah.
And the 3-1 to Stubbs. He tries to bunt his way on and misses. Strike 2, 3-2.
I can understand the intent there to get Sachs to third base, but here's the 3-1 count. You want to hammer that ball. You don't get too many cripples off Doc Gooden, and you want to take advantage of it. You don't want to bunt it. Even though the theory and principle is to get 1 or 2 runs early because Hershiser's been pitching so well.
I would have to think he did that on his own.
Oh, yeah.
3-2 pitch is swung on and missed. So Stubbs strikes out with Sachs at second base, and with 1 out, here comes Kirk Gibson.
Well, we talked about the fastball. Just tails away, and the reason I think Gooden is so overpowering, or can be overpowering, is because of the movement on the fastball, not to mention the velocity. And again, Stubbs, a strikeout hitter, goes for a bad pitch.
You could tell, excuse me, Jim, you could tell how much movement was on that pitch by the way Carter caught it. He caught the ball in the heel of the glove.
Kirk Gibson, who has come to symbolize the Dodger resurgence. Because of the collusion ruling, he was granted his free agency after the Dodgers, you might recall, had made a conditional trade Guerrero for Gibson. Strike. As it turned out, they didn't have to make that deal. Gibson was granted his free agency. They kept Guerrero, signed Gibson, and of course subsequently traded Pedro to St. Louis for John Tudor. Oh, 0-1 the count with 1 out. And he grounds it to the right side. Backman throws Gibson out, and Sachs goes to third. 2 gone. Sachs at third, and Mike Marshall coming up.
Batting fourth, number 5, right fielder, Mike Marshall.
Looking at the batting grip of Kirk Gibson, most hitters get it out in their fingertips, but he's so strong, he gets it up in his hand. Very short stroke. Of course, I think the key question, Al, is how much is that left knee bothering him? He said he's going to throttle down, did not run hard to first base.
Gooden will work from the windup with the runner at third base. He rarely, if ever, works from the stretch.
The pitch is in the dirt, 1-0. Actually, Gibson's injury is a combined knee and hamstring problem.
From what I understand, and I asked him, I said, how are you feeling? And he said, well, who knows? He said, I don't know if it's my hamstring or my knee. But from what I heard, it's a tendon that comes out of the hamstring and goes into the back of his left knee. Probably a little bit easier to treat than a hamstring, but maybe not in just a week.
Marshall hits a broken bat looper into right field for a base hit. 1-0. Well, the Dodgers, even though they have a couple of guys who can hit them out, might have to manufacture runs in a, let's say, Cardinal-type manner of the last couple of years with that single and steal and ground out and 2-out singles, and it's 1-0.
Well, if they do it as effectively as the Cardinals did in 1985 and 87, they'll take that. Very unusual that Mike Marshall, using almost a right-handed Stan Musial stance, hitting that ball off the end of the bat, breaking his bat, a broken bat RBI. Hitters will take every one of them.
John Shelby now takes a strike. The Dodgers getting a run, that's pretty much stop the presses stuff. Gooden in his career had allowed only 2 earned runs in 51 innings on this mound. And 51 innings is more than 5 games worth, 5 full games.
He's never lost in this ballpark. He's 4-1 at Dodger Stadium and 8-1 lifetime against the Dodgers. Only time he was beaten was back in 1985 by Fernando Valenzuela.
0-1 the count. And Shelby grounds one down to Backman, and Wally throws him out. But in the inning, because of speed, the Dodgers get a run and lead 1-0. Dodger Stadium in the twilight. First game of the League Championship Series. By the way, tomorrow's game is a night game. I know in some of your local listings it's listed as a day game, but because of the vice presidential debate, the American League starts tomorrow in Boston. The A's and Red Sox at 1 Eastern time, 10 in the morning out here. And we'll be on tomorrow night, better late than never, at 10 o'clock Eastern time and 7 o'clock on the West Coast following the debate. And then it's on to New York for the weekend. Dodgers on top by a score of 1-0 as Darryl Strawberry leads off in the second inning and pops it up a mile high, and Hamilton and Griffin are there, and Hamilton will take care of it on the grass. 1 away. Kevin McReynolds coming to the plate. Dodger Stadium, let's take a look at it. Down the lines, it's 330, then 385 to the gaps, 395 to center, and classify it, Jim. Pitcher's Park or Hitter's Park?
Well, I think it's a little bit more of a hitter's park than it used to be because they moved home plate a little bit closer to the fences. But with this mound, I have to say it's a great pitcher's park, and that's why traditionally every year, year in and year out, they have a great pitching staff.
Kevin McReynolds is at the plate, in for a strike.
That's a great angle to look at the pitcher's mound, and what they've done, this is a legal mound. The height of the mound from the rubber to the home plate can only be a 10-inch drop. What they have done is sunk the field. Therefore, the mound has appearances much higher than I don't know what the actual height is. And it's legal, but a great mound to throw off of, which is why I think why Gooden has had such great lifetime stats here, and why Hershiser, going back to 85, 19-3, 11-1 here at Dodger Stadium.
Low to McReynolds, and the count 2-1.
I think when you ask the pitcher what is one of the criteria, of course, of a good mound is the fall. How much does it severely drop?
Good breaking pitch.
Talk about
drop.
Yes, severely dropping. 2-1 curveball. Now you're Kevin McReynolds and you're 2-1, good hitters count. You're looking for a fastball, pitch you can drive. And look at this curveball. Borderline strike, but I'll tell you what, it tells you the next time you can expect anything at any time.
Got him on a sinker. Strikeout number 1 for Hershiser. And with 2 gone in the second inning, Davey Johnson will send Howard Johnson to the plate.
A lot of times when a hitter strikes out, it's not the pitch on which he strikes out, it's the one that leads up to it. And as Jim said, the 2-1 curveball set up the sinker, and McReynolds goes after a bad ball. It's not the pitch, it's how you got there. And Hershiser and Socia got there beautifully.
Doubt. It sets up doubt.
That's right.
Howard Johnson, he is one of the 4 switch hitters in the lineup and far more proficient as a left-handed batter. Look to the strike. You saw his mark for the season at 230. Combined as a left-handed batter alone, he hit 250 with 18 homers. But against Hershiser, a lot of problems.
Well, Howard and the rest of the league, but you're matching strengths against strengths, and Hershiser has the ability to throw that curveball anytime, run that sinker away on the outside part of the plate to left-handers, and Howard Johnson is a pull hitter.
He's
Davey
also
Johnson
a fastball hitter.
Exactly, but what it's his strength against Howard Johnson's strength.
Line right into the glove of Franklin Stubbs. For the second inning, like the first, ends on a line drive out. And after 1.5, 1-0 Los Angeles.
The pitcher's mound was dropped from 15 inches above home plate to 10 inches after the 1968 season. And the degree of slope starts 6 inches from the pitching rubber and goes down 1 inch per foot for 6 feet. And the other 4 inches of drop takes place in the last 54 feet, the mound being 60 feet 6 inches away from home plate.
It seems a lot closer when this guy's on the mound.
And he said that too.
He loves it here, but he trails 1-0 as Socha leads off the bottom of the second by lifting one in the air to Mookie Wilson. 1 up and 1 down in the second inning. And that'll bring up Jeff Hamilton.
I think something that Mike Schmidt did not add is that almost every game that we've ever done with Dwight Gooden on the mound, he says hitters are very aware of you have to lay off the high fastball. Right there, Socha couldn't do it. Result, fly ball. Now, it's easy to say and hard to do, especially at this time of day.
That's where your eyes are. If your eyes were on your knees, it'd be tough to lay off the low fastball.
Hamilton takes a curve for a strike, and the count is 0-1.
It'd be tough to put in your contact lenses, too, but I mean, thinking about it, of course, never thought of that.
High, tight, low, and away, right?
Yes.
Quickly, 2 strikes on Hamilton.
Of course, Timmy referring to most pitcher-catcher meetings with managers. Just pitch this guy high and tight, low and away. The Mets don't do that. They will sit down, Gary Carter, catcher, and Dwight Gooden, and go over how they want to pitch this lineup.
1-2 the count. So far, classic sequence. 2 quick strikes, waste 1. And now let's see what he comes back with. Against a man who has filled the void at third base for the Dodgers. It's really been a revolving door the last couple of seasons. Breaking pitch is hammered to deep left field, but McReynolds goes back and makes the catch on the track. 2 down, Hamilton sitting on it, but not getting all of it. And with 2 gone, McReynolds going back to haul it in, and here comes Griffin, crossing himself, and well, he should after what happened on the 21st of May, facing Dwight Gooden. He got hit by this pitch, and that did it for 2 months. Broken bone in his right hand. And he was gone from May until the end of July. He has faced Gooden since then. Griffin was back in action, and the Mets came in here in August. And he bluffs a bunt and takes low, ball 1, 1-0. That was a series in which the Dodgers lost Griffin, and then on Sunday, Guerrero threw his bat at David Cone, and they lost him to a suspension and lost the entire series. And the Mets left the Dodgers reeling at that point. 1-1, but they recovered.
And did they?
And they recovered in good measure despite this man's absence because of the play of Dave Anderson, and that's another story right now. Anderson with a chronic bad back, and it's acted up to the point that he's not eligible for this series as Johnson leaps up to make the catch. One shortstop robs the other. 1-0 LA after 2, and we'll be back after this word from your local station.
To the game.
A beautiful sight from the Goodyear blimp looking into Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. The Dodgers just shy of 3 million this year in attendance, and Bob Ojeda with his left hand encased, and most of you know the story. A hedge trimming accident nearly severing the middle finger of his left. That's his pitching hand. And we wish Bobby all the best in his recovery, and he hopes to be back by spring training.
I think one of Bobby's main concerns now is where to put the wedding band. He's going to be married October 29th, and his ring finger is going to be in a cast.
Carter takes a strike, and the count is 0-1.
It's been that kind of year. 10-13, a great ERA, 288.
Won 3-1 ball games. 5 shutouts for Bobby this year.
1-1, and they might miss him in this series because the Dodgers are suspect against left-handers. We're going to see Sid Fernandez in Game 4 on Saturday in New York. When we might have seen Ojeda.
26-27 against games that left-handers have started this year.
Little squibber up the line, and even Carter can beat this one out. With a guy like Carter at the plate, your third baseman can play very deep, and if you're going to hit one of those, it's easy.
Gary with that devious smile right there.
Well, he's been struggling all year, and right here he goes out and tries to pull a ball, which is what Hershiser wants him to do, but he wants him to hit it a little bit harder. He's going to appreciate even Carter could beat that out. Those catchers don't like those kind of phrases from broadcasters.
He looked like Flojo touching first base.
His version of Flojo.
Breaking the tape.
He looked more like Hojo touching first base. Here's Backman. No, actually, Hojo is a 30-30 man. We really can't make that comparison.
Flojo to Hojo in 2 days, right?
Absolutely. Low for a ball in the count. 1-0 on Wally Backman. Backman, an interesting case. He starts the season on the bench after platooning with Tim Tuffle the last couple of years. Tuffle wins the job outright, but gets hurt. Backman gets a chance to play. And now Wally back in there, and Wally had a good season at .303, a real good year. And he bunts up the line. Hamilton fields, throws to first just in time. Backman bunting as much for a base hit as to get the man over. He accomplishes the movement of Carter to second and gets credit for the sacrifice as well. One away.
Well, the Mets' best bunter. You can see why right here. I mean, he is bunting for a base hit, but watch him run outside the line. He should have been out even if this throw would hit him. But Hamilton takes care of that with a strong throw. He easily gets him. You have to run inside that 45-foot line. Franklin Stubb, who's 9 errors in the last 23 games, makes a nice play on this ball. Good throw.
Now Dwight Gooden, who can swing the bat. Career average is 181. 2 career home runs. 0-1.
The amazing thing about the entire Met pitching staff is that they don't strike out that much. I mean, batting average is not that good, but he makes contact. When you make contact as a pitcher, you have a chance. And this is how you get a string of scoreless innings going. When you get guys in scoring positions, you make quality pitches with good stuff. Hershiser has done that.
Carter at second, 1 out, 1-0 Dodgers. We're in the 3rd inning. And it's 0-2. Hershiser figures to pitch 3 times if this series goes 7. You can count on him going Saturday in Game 4, but not Gooden. Gooden would get only 2 starts in a 7-game series. The Dodgers tomorrow night go with a rookie Tim Belcher, and then they hope to bring John Tudor back in Game 3 Saturday.
The only possible exception is if the Dodgers are up 3 games to nothing, then Tim Leary, it would seem, would start on Saturday, and you'd save a fresh Hershiser for Sunday. And Tommy Lasorda certainly hopes that's the case at Shea.
Breaking pitch got him.
Another reason why this game is so important, it gives Tommy a little bit more latitude.
Center fielder, Mookie Wilson.
Another look at what Mike Schmidt said, that great curveball. And that's great even to a non-pitcher. But right here, not only does you can see the break, but you can see where the ball is. Mike Scioscia reaches out right on the corner. Quality pitch, great tight spin on a good curveball.
So 2 down as Gooden goes back to the dugout, and the top of the order now, Mookie Wilson, who lined out to Marshall and Wright in the first inning. Mookie, switch hitter, has a left-handed batter this year, .311. And for Wilson, he's the senior Met in point of continuous service. He made his big league debut in 1980 in this ballpark against the Dodgers. And he's up in a situation in which he's excelled this year. 1-0.
I think that's one of the reasons he excelled, is that he's a little bit more disciplined. One of these guys that a couple of years ago only 18 walks and 628 at-bats. Excuse me, 628 at-bats. This year only 28 walks, but only 320-some at-bats. So he's a little bit more disciplined, and when you see the ball well, you can lay off pitches outside the strike zone.
1-1 the count.
The danger pitch to Mookie Wilson is the breaking ball down and in. That's his long ball, from the left side or from the right side. And Socia talking to Hershiser right now. They obviously know that. And I wouldn't think that you're going to get a breaking ball to hit if you're Mookie Wilson. Here's the fastball, and he about throws it by him. Mookie fouling that ball back. Well, look at the action on that pitch.
Also look at the eye contact when Wilson, who's hitting 32 out of the last 36, I mean, right on that ball. But again, the movement will sometimes make you have a good swing but still get it result in a foul ball.
2-1.
It's funny, in this string, Hershiser said, you know, this is not a physical string. It's something that Don Drysdale touched on in the pregame show. He said, this is mental. I get in tough situations. I want to be there, and I can make quality pitches. Certainly did it to Gooden. He's got a real hitter up there now.
He shook off something.
And a breaking pitch is left into right for a base hit. Marshall comes up with it. They will hold Carter at third as the throw comes in. Well, with a faster base runner, the Mets would have had a run. Perlaza went all the way down the line and took a look at it and figured he'd be better off holding him at third, and it was the right choice.
There's that breaking ball we were talking about, and Mookie hits it hard into right field. And because of that, because he hit it so crisply, Carter's got to stop at third base. No way to challenge anybody with an average arm, and Mike Marshall has a better than average arm as a right fielder.
And also, Wilson, without a lot of power, you're playing a little bit shallower. Also, we can run this, I guess, to the gamut, but with 2 strikes, you're probably going to go on the pitch. With 1 strike, one of the easiest pitches to get picked off on is the curveball that the hitter swings through. So Carter had to make sure he hit it. The result is the score is not tied.
So the Dodgers still ahead 1-0 with 2 on and 2 out now, and Lasorda begins to pace for the first time as Davey Johnson sends Jeffries to the plate. He whacked the first pitch he saw for a base hit to right in the first inning.
And it was a fastball. And I think I asked some of the Mets, I said, you know, here's a guy that was hitting almost 500 after 50 at-bats. What's the difference when he has been struggling lately? They said not a lot of first pitch fastballs. We saw it the first time, the result was a line drive.
Well, the pitchers had to adjust to him because when Jeffries came up, he had 462 in his first 13 games, and then he had 193 over his last 16, and there it is graphically.
Tremendous bat speed. That's what's impressed me. It's the bat head out.
Comeback. And the Mets lead 2. And at the end of 2.5, Dodgers 1, Mets nothing. Few people have been in the type of groove Orel Hershiser is in right now, and he talked about it.
The only groove I really feel I'm in is a very good mental discipline groove, that I know what it takes mentally to get it accomplished on the mound. I don't know that I'm going to go out there and accomplish it, but I know what state of mind I need to be in. I know that I can't allow myself to get too animated out there. I know I got to really bear down and think pitch for pitch. Don't think about results, think about execution. And if I can think about just executing sinkers away, executing curveballs in the dirt, executing the ball up and in to knock a batter down, then I've got I'm putting myself in the best chance to win the game and to get the guys out.
In a groove on the mound. He's not necessarily in a groove at the plate. He had the worst average of his career this year at 129. Up until this season, he'd done very well. It lowered his average under the 200 mark, career-wise, to 194.
But the important thing is those 19 sacrifice bunts, leading the league or tying for the league along with Rick Russell. And that's part of being a National League pitcher. We've seen him make some nice plays tonight, getting the guy over when you have to, and especially on this type of offense. Not a lot of runs to work with.
And it's 2-1 as he leads off in the bottom of the third to be followed by Sachs and Stubbs.
It's interesting. He says, I look like a guy that would like to read books. I don't. I look like a guy that got straight A's, and I'm academically ineligible my first year in college. Looks like a wimp, but he says, I think I'm strong for my body composition.
I think he's proven that he is no wimp.
I know that. Now, this is what he said about himself. I'm not calling him a wimp. Looks like that sinker.
Looks like a man of average means, and he's a multimillionaire, or will be soon. How'd you like to have to work his arbitration case?
Well, I think he's looking forward to it.
He's had a couple of battles in recent years with the Dodgers. 3-2 pitches high, so he's on. And obviously the last thing that Dwight Gooden wants to do, walk the leadoff man and the pitcher to Booth.
Take a look. Dwight, of course, is trying to throw it right down the middle. Well, he throws it down the middle, but it just lets it go too high for ball 4. I mean, that's one of those situations. Pitcher up there, you just try to hit the catcher right in the glove. He wasn't able to do that.
So now Sachs comes to the plate. Johnson looking over his infield alignment. He has to move Jeffries in close at third to protect against the bunt. For the moment, Hernandez is playing back of Hershiser at first base, right behind him. And Sachs up there bluffing a bunt, and then to swing takes a strike. Joey Amalfitano flashing the signs from third. Sachs hot through August. He actually started the season real cold, then got hot, and then slumped toward the end.
What that bunt did, or the fake bunt, was move Hernandez now in front of Hershiser. He's not really holding Orel on. He's playing, as you can see, about a step off the line. But the reason he's in front of the runner is in case Sachs bunts toward first, he wants to be in position.
And Sachs up there to swing away, takes low and outside, 1-1.
Well, that's a smart pitch by Gary Carter and Dwight Gooden, where you don't know a guy's going to be bunting. A curveball sometimes a good way to find out. Did throw it for a ball, but looked like Sachs was trying to swing away, at least on that pitch.
Hershiser, who walked only once all season, is at first base. And this time Sachs squares and takes a strike in the count 1-2.
Back to that first hit in the first inning was on a fastball. Gooden doesn't want him to give that same pitch to hit now. Throws him a good curveball to run the count to 1-2.
I'll tell you one thing. You got to watch Hershiser. He has attempted to steal second 5 times, 3 successfully in his career. He'll run.
And he looks like he's going to go, but he stays, and it's grounded foul. Still 1-2.
He was leaning right then, and now Hernandez is going to talk to Gooden and tell him about Orel, saying maybe throw over here one time to keep him honest. But he was leaning. This guy's a total athlete. Of course, you're seeing that on both sides. Gooden, the consummate athlete, and Hershiser, good hockey player. It's amazing that he was picked on the 17th round. 416 players were chosen before Hershiser.
2-2. And he was hit by it. So Sachs gets grazed by a pitch, and Gooden in a jam in the third inning, walking the pitcher and grazing Sachs.
Something you said earlier, you said sometimes how you get there is the important thing. He wants to come inside, and he does. Looks like it grazes his forearm. Wow. Probably go away with a curveball on the next pitch, but unable to do that with Sachs going down to first base.
That's some replay to prove that point. In the NFL, upon further review, yes, he was hit by the pitch. Send him down there.
The Mets do not have the rotation play where the third baseman comes in, but Hernandez cheats so much toward home. It's tough for him to do now because you don't know whether Stubbs is bunting or not.
First and second. and nobody out, and Stubbs up there to bunt. Bunts, foul, and the count is 0-1.
See, Hernandez was frozen then because you've got a left-handed pull hitter up there, so Hernandez can't cheat toward home like he normally does when a right-handed hitter is batting. So he's got to more or less maintain his position. This is a very difficult play for Hernandez and the Mets because Stubbs has third base or first base to bunt it toward.
Stubbs doesn't bunt a lot. During the regular season, he had 2 sacrifices. 2 on, nobody out. And again, he lays one down, but foul again, and the count is 0-2. And the crowd, and they have been on Stubbs because he sort of looks as if he plays in a lackadaisical fashion. Gets on his case again.
Which Tommy didn't look very happy, but one of the strengths of being a good manager, of course, is knowing the strengths of your player. And I doubt if Stubbs is a very good bunter. We saw that the first inning when he tried to get the runner from second to third. Excuse me, the second inning. You can see the career average right now, so maybe he'd like to bunt, but I think with 2 strikes, we're obviously going to see him swing away here.
He's only sacrificed twice this year.
No balls, 2 strikes the count. Hernandez now goes back to normal depth. And he's up there to bunt again and takes outside. Isn't that interesting?
I don't understand that. If you're up there with 2 strikes, I mean, here's a second-place hitter, a power hitter. I don't know whether he did it on his own on the 3-1 count the first time up with Sachs at second base.
He may have missed his time, too.
Yeah, I think that bunt with 2 strikes is a bad play, especially unless it's a pitcher. Got a number 2 hitter with a lot of power.
1-2, he swings away and down he goes. So Stubbs strikes out for the second time. Gooden has 2 strikeouts in both instances, Franklin. And it brings up Kirk Gibson. Gorgeous shot, sunset in Southern California. And a look back into Dodger Stadium, about a mile from downtown Los Angeles. Temperature in the 70s. And all is well in the city of Angels at the moment because their Dodgers lead 1-0 in the third. Gibson grounded out in the first inning. At Carter's feet. 1-0. Hershiser at second base. Sachs is at first.
Gives you a pretty good idea of the movement on Gooden's fastball. Carter was checking his glove because he thought he caught the ball and almost missed it. Almost went right by him. Important statistic here. Gibson only 8 times that he grounded a double play. It'll be interesting to see if he hits a ground ball, how he'll run with that bad knee.
1-1. Gibson was hurt a lot down the stretch. They rested him after clinching the division title. Then he tried to play on Friday night and went all out, as he put it, for 6 innings. And then he couldn't play Saturday or Sunday. But he told the reporters yesterday, hey, it's a non-story. I'll be in there. Bank on it. 2-1. Got the corner.
Well, Gibson has struck out 19 times, as you saw, out of 36 at-bats. So I don't imagine with Hershiser at second base, as you see the fastball just get the corner, I don't imagine Tommy Lasorda will send the runners here.
He doesn't, and Gibson strikes out on a breaking pitch, low and in on him.
So Gooden does what Hershiser has done, 3-2. Doesn't matter what the count is. You don't know what's coming. And it appeared that Gibson was, totally full. Looking fastball. Normally in that situation, you try to look for the ball, but it's tough to do that off of Gooden.
So 2 down. You never know with Gibson in the dugout after he strikes out. That's about as mild a reaction as you'll ever see from him. Marshall swings and misses. 0-1.
You know, there are times when you go back to the dugout and you know you've been overmatched. And there's times you go back as a hitter and you say, gee, I should have hit that pitch. I don't think that was one of those cases. It's not like he got a good pitch to hit and missed it.
To Mike Marshall.
The base hit to score the run in the first inning was a fastball out over the plate. So if Marshall, who is a strikeout type of hitter, this year one of the few years under 100 with 97, some years 137 strikeouts, his weakness is up and in. That and the curveball in the dirt, which is something we talked about. High and tight, low and away.
Chased it. Down he goes, and Dwight Gooden strikes out the side in the 3rd. To the 4th we go, 1-0 LA.
The National League Championship Series, brought to you by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light.
Looks like a painting, doesn't it? Sunset. And the sun went down on the Dodgers in the bottom of the 3rd inning with runners at 1st and 2nd and nobody out, and there was Tom Lasorda's reaction to Marshall striking out as Gooden strikes out the side. Stubbs, Gibson, and Marshall.
We're talking about execution, and one of the reasons the Dodgers have been able to win low-scoring games is that they've been able to get runs when they can. We don't look for any of these teams to really blow out the other team with the excellent pitching on either staff.
Keith Hernandez to lead off as we go to the 4th. They'll be followed by Strawberry and McReynolds. Hernandez lined into a double play in the 1st inning. A run, 2 hits for the Dodgers. No runs, 3 hits for the Mets. 4th inning underway. Strike. You know, Lasorda did a master psychological job. When Hershiser came up, Orel, he's as kind and considerate a fella as you'd ever want to meet, and very religious, and he looked like he was about 12 years old when he was a rookie. And Tommy Lasorda wanted him to be more aggressive, so he gave him the nickname Bulldog, and it has stuck. And I have to laugh every time I hear Lasorda call Hershiser Bulldog. It's sort of like going up to Mr. Rogers and saying, we're going to change your personality. We're going to call you Ferocious Fred. I mean, it's just out of place, but it's worked.
I think what he wanted to do, and Hershiser back in '84, his first year, part-time relief, part starting, he was 11-8. He said he was too tentative. He would not throw the ball over the plate. He said, you know, let them know that you can think that you can get them out. And he's certainly done that the last few years.
2-1 pitch is hammered foul off to the left, and the count is 2-2.
Not only that, Orel Leonard Hershiser the 4th is Bulldog the 1st.
That's right.
What's in a name? Orel Leonard Hershiser the 4th. It's like naming a guy Bubba, or a guy named Bubba, to be the curator of the Louvre.
Yeah.
Bubba Ray, Billy Bob.
Still 2-2 the count.
You know, if you put the name Orel Leonard Hershiser the 4th at Bubba, and then the Louvre in baseball, you'd figure that Orel Leonard Hershiser the 4th would fit with the Louvre more than he would the opening game of the National League Championship Series.
He's an artist on the mound. There's no question about that. And he's a work of art to these fans. Leading 1-0, and he strikes Hernandez out on a pitch on the corner. And Keith says, what corner? Hollywood and Vine?
Well, known for his astute idea of the strike zone. Take a look for yourself. We can see. Pretty good pitch. Harry Wendelstag thought it was a pretty good pitch. Strike 3. course, if you're an ex-pitcher, you say great pitch, and if you're an ex-catcher, of course, you say the same thing. I guess if you're catching Hershiser, if you're a hitter, you want that pitch to be called a ball. You want to run the count to 3-2, and know you're going to get a better pitch to hit.
Strawberry now takes a strike, and the count 0-1. Strawberry, will he win the MVP award? That's another thing we should bring up right now. The votes are in. The playoffs mean nothing as far as postseason honors are concerned. The ballots are all in, so what you do in the playoffs and series doesn't matter. MVP, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, Manager of the Year. It's all done and over with right now to be announced in November. But either Strawberry or Gibson, with the outside possibility of McReynolds, figures to win that award. Or maybe even Hershiser if they give it to a pitcher.
I think the fact that the Giants and the Pirates didn't win, that kind of squelches Will Clark and Andy Van Slyke's chances.
1-2, and there is McReynolds on deck. He is sort of the, shall we say, designer choice to win the award. He's real quiet. Doesn't toot his own horn, the quiet one from Arkansas, but the way he came on at the end, he's liable to pick up a few votes. Stubbs shovels to Hershiser, and Strawberry becomes out number 2, and McReynolds comes to the plate. Now a reminder again, tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern time, 10 in the morning West Coast, A's Red Sox from Fenway Park, Game 1. Gary Bender is there with Joe Morgan and Reggie Jackson. And then tomorrow, following the vice presidential debate at 10 o'clock Eastern time and 7 p.m. here on the coast, Mets-Dodgers, and that's David Cohn working for New York and Tim Belcher, the good-looking rookie for the Dodgers. Now McReynolds with 2 out, bases empty in the 4th inning. Curve for a strike. Here's a guy who really got cheated out of playing in the World Series in 1984 when he was a San Diego Padre because he was hurt in the playoffs. Broke a bone and had to watch the World Series.
I talked to him about that very thing before the game, and he said, you know, I win either way. And I said, why? He said, well, if we win it, we go to the World Series. If we lose, I go back to Arkansas.
Chamber of Commerce ought to turn that into a commercial in Little Rock. That's hit down the line, curling, and just foul. 1-2. And that's an easy call in the championship series because of the 6 umpires. Not that that was necessarily that difficult anyway, but Paul Runge was right there on top of it to make the call. 1-2.
Well, part of a scoreless streak, and maybe what Hershiser's going to have to do tonight is shut out the Mets is a little bit of luck. Ball was hit well enough to be a double, but it just curves foul. Seen a couple of line drives caught tonight. Certainly not to denigrate his pitching. In fact, he seems to getting a little bit better command of his pitches, a little bit better command of his curveball. Early on, they hit the ball pretty hard.
McReynolds breaks his bat on a bouncer to Hamilton, and down go the Mets in order in the 4th inning. At the end of 3 1/2, 1-0 Los Angeles.
Our cars.
You didn't have to be a genius to figure out this was going to be a low-scoring series, or figures to be, and that's just the way we begin tonight.
I think tonight is going to be just like this microcosm of the way the rest of the series is going to be.
I think so, too. I'll agree. I'll go along with that.
Well, you've got 2 pitching staffs that each wound up with a collective ERA of under 3. And they finished 1st and 2nd as you look down from the Goodyear Blimp Columbia. And the lights are taking full effect now at Dodger Stadium. Dusk in Southern California. And as we go to the bottom of the 4th inning, Dodgers on top 1-0. And John Shelby swings and misses. He'll be followed by Socha and Hamilton.
Well, I know there's one Dodger sitting over on the bench, and that's Tim Belcher, who'll pitch tomorrow night, that is rooting for a Dodger win tonight. A little bit easier to go out there when you're relaxed.
Well, I think the point you made at the top is well taken, Jim, in terms of the regular season. If the Dodgers lose tonight with Hershiser pitching, they've got to go back and say, man, that's 11 out of 12. But if they win, they totally forget about being 1-10.
Of course, on the other hand, you really do go back to '86 when Mike Scott, the Cy Young Award winner, Hershiser this year as the possible Cy Young Award winner. You figure not to get a lot of runs against those guys if you're talking about the Mets. And they got to figure out, well, maybe we'll lose to Hershiser, but we better win 4 times before we have to face him 3 times in this series. That means that if they can win before they go 7, they got a good chance.
Shelby hits a fly ball to right field, and Strawberry gets underneath it. And to the Darrell chant makes the catch. 1 away. Gooden struck the side out in the 3rd inning. He has 4 in 3 1/3 as he gets set to face Scioscia here in the bottom of the 4th. But as most of you know who follow the game, graphically we can illustrate how his strikeout rate per 9 innings has decreased. And since his rookie year, hits per 9 innings have increased. In there for a strike in the count 0-1. And there it is again. And, of course, he had that spectacular season in 1985 after breaking in with a splash as a rookie, and everybody keeps expecting him to live up to that.
Well, that's like the barometer they're always going to judge him on. I mean, you go back to 24-4, 153 ERA. I mean, that was a classic year. Very close to what Gibson did when you caught him back in 1968 with a 112 ERA.
Down goes Scioscia, and Mike wants to know if it was a strike. And I think Harry Wendelstedt answered in the affirmative.
Yes, especially after you swung at it. It looked like the curveball was low. As you take another look at this curveball, 2 strikes, you will expand the strike zone, especially with a great curveball. Watch this ball go down.
Well, Harry was being nice to him. He said he would have called that a called strike.
Jim, you mentioned Bob Gibson, and it was Gibson's comment after that season. He said Dwight Gooden will never have another year like that, and that was a compliment. Everybody thought it was kind of a knock, but it was a compliment, because when you're 24-4 with a 1.53, I mean, how many times are you going to do that during a career?
I mean, you want to do it every year, but can it be done?
And it applies to hitters as well. I mean, we all know what's going to happen next year when the A's go to spring training. Everybody's going to wonder whether Canseco can join the 50-50 club.
Of course, that's what's so great about Dwight, is that, you know, you set standards and then you try to live by them. Certainly has not had a bad year this year at 18-9. I talked to him the other day. He said, I'm going to try to work on getting rid of the ball a little bit quicker, because they did run on me at any time they want. So he realizes that he can get back to that level where he can constantly win over 20 games. Good ball club to pitch for, a lot of runs. In fact, he was the best supported National League pitcher this year with over 5 runs a game, about 5.6 runs. I think he's aware of his weaknesses. But for him to be able to do what he did 3 years ago, I'm not sure if he'll ever attain it.
Shot of downtown Los Angeles. Like a little traffic on that might be the Harbor Freeway. 2-2 pitch is grounded to the right side. Struggles, knocked down, picked up by Backman. No. Hamilton beats it out. Backman, angry with himself, will get an error to prolong the inning.
Looks like Wally was rather tentative. He waits back. You can afford to do that if you're a right side of the infielder, because you can usually recover in time to make the play, but the ball bounced too far away from Backman to recover, and Hamilton is safe at first.
So with 2 out, Alfredo Griffin comes to the plate. Griffin came up in the late 70s with Cleveland. Then he spent 6 seasons as the everyday shortstop at Toronto, 3 in Oakland, and here with the Dodgers now after the offseason trade, and this is the first postseason game of Griffin's career. 1,465 regular season games, and there's only one guy who's played more and hasn't been to postseason, as Griffin hits a ground ball to the right side, and Backman forces them at second. And we'll have the answer for you when we come back in the 5th. After 4, it's 1-0 Dodgers. Back after this word from your local station. Back in L.A., I swear Magic Johnson has been at every sports event in the country in the last month. I see him at a Michigan State game. He's at a Michigan game. He's at a summer basketball game. He's everywhere. He's at the Raider game the other day on the sideline. Magic, great sports fan, and he might as well enjoy himself because he's going to training camp here in about a week. Howard Johnson starts the 5th inning by hitting one to deep center field, but room for Shelby to make the catch. One away. What about Dave Johnson, the Mets manager? His status for next season still in doubt. That's been an ongoing story in New York all year, and I talked with him about it yesterday.
Do you feel you have to win the playoffs and or World Series, or was the division good enough?
Well, you know, we had a great year. We drew a lot of people, and the future is the strongest I've ever seen for the New York Mets. Anything can happen in a short series. You know, the fate of a manager can change one bad game or a bad week. But I feel that I'm going to be back. I really don't like to get into it. It's been a little uncomfortable for me all summer. But, you know, I feel we're going to win and they'll want me back.
Davey Johnson talking about his status. I had prefaced that question yesterday by saying to him, he had told us in an interview which we had played earlier this season, that he felt he had to win to be invited back to manage this team. And, of course, he is the first manager in National League history to win 90 or more games in his first 5 seasons. And I would have to think he will be invited. Little squiver back to Hershiser, and Carter is out number 2. And that will bring up Backman. And yesterday, I know I had talked to Davey about what had happened in New York on Sunday. It didn't get a lot of play, but he was in the dugout, and they'd arranged it. Mets management and the coaching staff knew about it. They sent him to the mound to talk to Randy Myers in the 9th inning. It was a plant, because up on the message board, they put up that information about he being the first to win 90 in the National League, and he got a standing ovation at Shea, and he was very touched by it.
I think he'd be even more touched by a 3-year contract. Yeah. I'll tell you, the difference between re-sign and resign is a hyphen.
1-0 the count on Backman.
I think the problem is what you said in the opening, Al, the consensus favorite. And I think that maybe Frank Cashin feels that other managers could do a good job also. So who knows? We'll just have to wait and see.
Outside of Russ Nixon with the Atlanta Braves, for the teams that have managers, Davey Johnson is the only manager without a contract. And here the Mets are prohibitive favorites to win the National League Championship Series, even though they trail now. For teams that have a manager, of course, Houston does not have a manager, having fired Hal Lanier.
And the Phillies, if you missed it, have hired Nick Leyva, the Cardinal third base coach, as their new manager.
And the Pirates still have a manager, but they don't have a general manager.
Sid Thrift, and that was rumored to have happened, who did such a fabulous job helping to turn that franchise around, is out the door.
Power play, Mr. Danforth and Mr. Barger won. Apparently. Fiscal responsibility.
For the time being.
Yes. Well, he did do a marvelous job.
I'll say he did.
2-1 the count. Backman at the plate. 2 out. Bases empty in the 5th inning. Dodgers on top, 1-0. Swept foul off to the left, and the count 2 balls and 2 strikes.
When you talk to Orel Hershiser, he likes to make it very simple. Watch him tuck his chin to his shoulder. I mean, right on the toe of his left foot. Great extension, great follow-through. We said this is a great mound to do that. Does not throw between starts. One of the few pitchers that I know that doesn't do that.
Backman hits a fly ball to center field. And Shelby is there. And Hershiser has set down the last 7. At the end of 4.5, still 1-0 Dodgers. Back in Los Angeles, Al Michaels with Jim Palmer and Tim McCarver. Gooden, 61 pitches through 4. He allowed a run in the first, and that's been it. The only run of the game, and it's 1-0. Dodgers with Hershiser leading off in the bottom of the 5th. I know I left you hanging with a question in the top of the 5th inning. We were talking about Alfredo Griffin having played in so many regular season games, more than a decade's worth, before he finally gets into postseason play. And there was just one other guy who had played in more, as Hershiser takes a strike. And if you said Buddy Bell, you're right. Buddy came up with Cleveland in 72 through 78, Texas from 79 through 85, Cincinnati the last 3 years, and now Houston, of course. Buddy Bell, that's amazing when you think about it. 17 years in the big leagues, over 2,300 games, never in postseason. 1-2 the count on Hershiser. Boy, it's funny the way things work out. And then there are guys who always seem to wind up in postseason, no matter where they play. Guys like Tito Landrum.
Guys like Don Baylor.
Howard Johnson again played with Detroit. Now his second postseason action with the Mets. Hershiser tries to bunt his way on with 2 strikes, and down he goes. And Gooden records strikeout number 6.
And I know the feeling. When you figure you can't hit a guy, you better try something else. That's why I bunted in the 70 All-Star game against Seaver. You see the fastball, you see the curveball. There you see it looks like another curveball. He's just trying to get on. About face. Let's go back to the dugout and rest.
So he sits down next to Marshall as Steve Sax stands in. Well, the difference in this game right now is exactly how the Dodgers are going to have to win this series, with speed and pitching. The only run of the game is a single by Sax, and we figured he'd be going, and he was on a 2-1 pitch, and he stole second. He went to third on a grounder, and he scored on Marshall's single. Hershiser has held the Mets in check, and the Dodgers lead 1-0. I mean, if you were going to do it out of a textbook, you'd say this is the way they'd have to do it.
Of course, the Dodgers are not strangers to close ball games. I mean, 65 times this year they've scored 2 or fewer runs. So from a defensive standpoint, they're used to playing in tight ball games. And the pitchers, one of the big differences this year, of course, is their bullpen. Of course, you're not going to go to the bullpen quite as readily with a guy like Hershiser. But Tommy doesn't look too happy there, but he knows he has a good bullpen this year.
Look a little tired right there. 1-2.
Well, it's usually, I think usually he's having a bowl of pasta at this time. How about that line by Melvin Durslag? Tommy looks like he's been on, what was it, anabolic pasta?
Yeah, right. It's a new dish.
Yes.
1-2 pitch. Got him. Fastball. And Gooden now has 7 strikeouts in 4 2/3 innings. So 2 down, 5th inning.
First base runner.
Stubbs coming up. Boy, big day on ABC Sports Saturday. Our college football presentations, regional action, Ohio State against Indiana, Washington against Arizona State. And those games are sandwiched in between the baseball playoffs, National Day and American Night. So a huge day Saturday here on ABC Sports. Stubbs has struck out twice. In there, 0-1. Well, they've given Franklin a lot of chances through the years, and he's back again on an everyday basis. Once they traded Guerrero, it opened up first base once more, and Stubbs hits a ground ball backhanded by Backman, and down he goes. 1-2-3 inning for Gooden. End of 5. Dodgers 1, Mets nothing.
The National League Championship Series, brought to you by Stroh's and Stroh Light. Fire brewed for smooth, consistent taste. Stroh's is spoken here.
Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. Game 1 of the National League Championship Series, moving right along. Hershiser and Gooden locked up 1-0 L.A. as Gooden leads off. And there is Dwight's record during the regular season in his career, an astonishing 91-35 as he takes a strike, leading off here in the 6th. But in postseason play, a whole other story. 2 of those losses in the World Series in '86, the other in the playoffs.
Very deceptive, too, because in the 1986 playoffs, he lost 1-0 on the Glenn Davis home run to Mike Scott, and then he locked up with Nolan Ryan. First time he went over 9 innings, as a matter of fact.
He strikes out here, and again, he's in a situation a la 86, pitching very well, but somebody's pitching a little bit better. One gone.
Of course, that's what you gear yourself up for when you pitch against an Orel Hershiser. You know that the possibility of a Steve Sachs getting a leadoff base hit. You know he's most likely going to run. But sometimes you just can't keep the guys that you want off the bases, really not off them. And this guy is, I mean, a marvelous streak. This is a marvelous pitcher right there in Dwight Gooden. A tremendous admiration through what he went through last year, and it seems like he's got himself back on the right track.
Mookie Wilson hits a bouncer to short, and Alfredo Griffin throws it out. 2 down.
You know, Orel Hershiser says when they hit ground balls to Alfredo, I don't even look. He says, I know he's going to make the plays, and I'm sure if you went up to Alfredo and said, you like playing behind Orel Hershiser, he would say yes, because he pitches quickly, he's around the plate, I can be on my toes, he's not going into a lot of full counts. I don't believe he has one tonight yet. Good pitcher to play behind if you're a defensive infielder or outfielder.
Greg Jeffries at the plate. Jeffries is a kid who grew up in Northern California in San Mateo. It's about a 20-minute drive from Candlestick Park. He hated the Giants. He loved the Dodgers. He grew up as a Dodger fan. He told me yesterday his father and he used to fly down here as they take care of a beach ball in right field. They'd come down and watch the Dodgers, and he idolized Ron Say. And he said when he was in the 5th and 6th grade, he would turn in papers to his teachers, and he would sign his name Greg Say Jeffries, C-E-Y. And so here he is coming to Dodger Stadium, playing third for the Mets. And he grounds one by where Say used to play into left field for a base hit. So Jeffries with a single, 2 out here in the 6th inning. That's his second hit. 2 of the 4 hits off Hershiser, and Hernandez comes up.
The last time Jeffries made an out, it was a sinker low and away. He tried to pull it. He grounded back to Hershiser. He got an identical pitch, the sinker low and away, and he rifles it to left field.
Fast learner.
Yes, sir. It's funny, Jeffries growing up right down the road, as you said, from Candlestick, where Say Hay used to make some hay. Number 24, Willie Mays.
Also where Keith Hernandez, very close proximity. Both don't wear batting gloves. He's got batting gloves on now, but not at the plate.
And he rips one into center field for a base hit, and Jeffries, without hesitating, goes to third. So with 2 out, the Mets threaten here in the 6th inning. And it's the first time tonight, make it the second time tonight, they've gotten a man to third base. They stranded Carter there in the 3rd inning.
Right fielder, Darryl Strawberry.
No doubt in Jeffries' mind he was going all the way.
Well, with 2 outs, you have to make sure going to third base. But with Shelby going to his left, he's got too much to do to turn around and throw it to third base. So Jeffries goes into third uncontested.
So 2 on and 2 out, and Strawberry at the plate. Popped out, grounded out. And at first base with Hernandez, the runner there, Stubbs will take the liberty of playing a little bit behind him, figuring that Keith is not going to test it with that hamstring, topped off by the fact with Strawberry at the plate, you're not going to open up first base anyway. High ball 1.
And that can make a big difference, because what Hershiser would like to do is just run that ball away from Strawberry, hopes that he tries to pull it, because Strawberry's great strength is out over the plate. So
yeah, it sure is, Jim.
Yeah, that's where he gets his leverage.
That's a danger area, that ball away, unless you're very fine.
Of course, again, it comes back to the classic situation. Is Hershiser going to be better than Strawberry? What you'd like to do is just nip that outside corner with the ball running away, get the left-hand hitter to try to pull it, and the result is usually a ground ball.
Strawberry has such tremendous power the other way to left field. No park is really too small for Darryl, or too large, I should say.
39 home runs last year, 39 again. He did that by hitting 2 the last Sunday.
It's a very interesting confrontation right here.
2 on, 2 out. And the 1-1 pitch. High ball 2. 2-1.
I think your point's well taken. Do you go away from the strength, which is his sinker low and away, and come inside just because Strawberry's vulnerable inside?
Well, a lot of times it depends on the count. If you look at this count, 2 balls, 1 strike. You come in, you want to throw a strike, but yet you don't want to throw a strike in to this guy.
Stays away, and it's grounded down to stop. And Oral Hershiser still hasn't given up a run since August. 1-0 Dodgers in the middle of the 6th. In a big prominent story in the Los Angeles Times this morning, headline, Darryl as a Dodger. Ross Newhan of the Times talks about Strawberry. Darryl contending he'd like to play with the Dodgers after 1990, and he talked about it before the game.
Well, it's always a dream that, any kid, when you're growing up and, being in your own hometown, coming back, like I said, for the National League Championship to play, and then knowing that you might have an opportunity when your years are up with the organization that you're with, and if the opportunity is right and it's fitted for me, then you make the decisions then. But, you're not trying to make any decisions at this particular point.
Are you necessarily closing the door on the Mets in the far distant future?
No, I'm not at all. I've had a long relationship in New York, and it's been outstanding. I feel good about it. But there's been a lot of rough times, too, there. And, you just say to yourself, when it comes to that time, are you ready to make a decision whether you're going to play here or whether you're going to play there? So I really haven't came to any point in my mind right now, but I'm still thinking, considering that L.A. would be one of my favorite places to play.
The Darryl Strawberry story, which is a bit of a cause celeb today, in for a strike, though others have poo-pooed it, saying, well, he's been talking like that for a while, and he did say that he had talked about it with Ross Newhan 3 or 4 weeks ago. And, of course, the story was prominently displayed today. And, Tim, you've been traveling with the Mets all season. What about the timing of something like that? Does that have any effect on the team?
Well, I don't think it has any effect on the team, because I think the team understands Darryl now. I mean, think about the beginning of the season. The Esquire article came out, written by Mike Lupica, where Darryl eventually denied that he had said all those things back in January, and it went over the 1987 season. And the team as a whole, I think, was slightly miffed as a group. And I don't really think. I think you're talking to Lee Mazzilli today was pretty poignant, and Lee kind of spoke for the club.
2-2 to Gibson is outside. I asked Lee about it before the game, and he's been around and he has seen it all. And he said, I read the article and I kept saying, well, he couldn't have said that. I read the next paragraph. He couldn't have said. Then he said, yeah, well, that's Darryl. I guess that's Darryl. We come to expect it, and it really wouldn't have an effect on a team, even with the timing on the eve of the League Championship Series.
No.
Gibson goes down on strikes. And Dwight Gooden doing a pretty good 1985 imitation tonight with 8 strikeouts in 5 1/3 innings.
Well, what sets up this total freeze by Kirk Gibson is the way he got there. He threw him some curveballs early in the count. He's looking for the ball, can't pull the trigger. Right there, he wants to swing. Great pitch, outside corner, 90-plus fastball. Carter just throws it to the third baseman.
1 out, and Mike Marshall at the plate. 0-1. Just to follow up on that Strawberry thing for a second. He's talking about Eric Davis, and he, in their own words, getting together, which, of course, would be almost collusion in reverse if 2 guys said, hey, we're going to both go to one team or attempt to do something like that. Fouled away, so somebody ought to remind Darryl of that in a hurry.
Of course, you can also imagine how he said it, kind of wistfully thinking that he'd like to be reunited with Eric Davis. But that, you said Darryl's Darryl, and he is immature in some respects. He's matured as a player. Seems like most of his bats are quality. But he does say things that I'm sure he regrets. This was one of them.
Here's the 0-2 pitch to Marshall. Got him. Again, that's 9 strikeouts. Marshall gone twice on strikes. And it will bring up Shelby.
This does not look like the guys whose tune-up last week in Philadelphia was 5-inning pitch, 10 hits, and 7 runs.
The most earned runs he'd given up all season, but he wasn't making pitches like this.
No. In fact, Mel Stottlemyre, the pitching coach here in New York, who's done a fabulous job. Talk about emulating a guy. Mel, great pitcher, great hard worker. talked about how poor that mound was in Philadelphia. They'd put it in after a football game. Very flat, almost throwing uphill. That's not the case here. There's Mel. 20-game winner 3 or 4 times. All-around pitcher.
Shelby with a typical Shelby-type swing on a breaking pitch, and the count 1-1. Gooden has 9 strikeouts, and he's right on the verge of a 10th because Shelby struck out 128 times this year, had the highest rate in the National League. 1-2.
And if you're wondering why the fastball could freeze you, it's at 96 miles per hour on the last 2 strikeouts.
He has not given up a hit since the first inning. The Dodgers 2 opposite field singles. That's it. 2-2. There's David Cone, the 20-game winner, 20-3 to the mound tomorrow night against rookie Tim Belcher. 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. Eastern time. Half swing, down he goes. 10 strikeouts for Dwight Gooden after 6. Dodgers 1, Mets nothing. Back in Los Angeles after this word from your local station.
The National League Championship Series, brought to you by MasterCare Car Service with over 1,500 locations nationwide. Finally, taking care of your car is no big deal.
In Los Angeles, Al Michaels, Jim Palmer, Tim McCarver. Game 1 of the National League Championship Series. Thus far, very much according to Hoyle. Dodgers 1, Mets nothing. 7th inning. McReynolds, Johnson, and Carter for New York. Kevin is 0 for 2. Struck out, grounded out. This is the kind of game. They only put overs and unders up on the board in Nevada for football, but if this was up on the board, I think the number might have been 1, which is the score right now. Hershiser and Gooden. 1 run. Popped up on a breaking pitch. Alfredo Griffin. 1 away. Johnson coming up.
You go back to the last time that Hershiser pitched against the Dodgers, he had a 1-0 lead going into the 8th inning. Excuse me, Hershiser pitched against the Mets. As you look at the mixture, we just saw a great curveball 1-0 where McReynolds no doubt was looking for a fastball. But you go back to that loss, the only time he's faced him this year, he had a 1-0 lead going in the 8th inning. The Mets scored 2 runs to beat him.
Mike Marshall dropped the ball in right field, and you saw the 19 curveballs. It's not that he's thrown 19, it's when he's thrown them behind in the count. He got the out with Strawberry on the 2-1 curve, and there with the count 1 ball and no strikes to McReynolds, he comes back for the curveball.
Back to the Louvre, a Louvre-like performance tonight. A true artist at work. The 1-0 pitch in there, breaking ball.
1-0 curveball. Hershiser used to throw that split-finger fastball, but in talking to Mike Socia, he has primarily gone with the 2 types of fastballs, in and out, the left-handers and the right-handers, the curveball and a straight change.
Another easy grounder. Sacks. 2 down in the 7th inning, and Gary Carter comes to the plate.
And he said in this streak, of course, we're talking about the scoreless inning scheme. He said very few changeups, so he's basically gone with his strengths, which is what all pitchers want to do. If you got a good curveball, you got a good sinker, stay with him. He would hate to get either a tie situation or lose a ball game on his 3rd pitch.
And again, that streak truly just incredibly remarkable, and it's one of those things that, as we mentioned during our pregame show, it really sneaks up on a lot of people, and so much going on in sports as it's taking place, you tend to forget about it. And then the next thing you know is he starts Carter with a curve for a strike. He eclipses Drysdale's mark. And if you don't follow baseball that closely, I'm not sure you can really appreciate it. That is truly one of the records a lot of people who know a lot about this game thought could not be approached. 0-2. There it is. Drysdale did it in '68. Walter Johnson, and there were some relief appearances there back in 1913. Gibson and Hubble, the top 5.
Not only that, to get it, he had to have the cooperation of his teammates offensively not to score during a 9-inning game. It took him 10 innings to break the record.
And he needed an umpire's decision as well to keep it going, as did Drysdale. 0-2 the count. 1-2. Very odd thing with Harry Wendelstedt, the plate umpire tonight. He was the man who kept Drysdale's streak alive with a call back in '68. Breaking pitch, half swing, yes! One up by McSherry for strike 3. Shaking his head, he becomes strikeout victim number 5. 1-0 Dodgers. Oral Hershiser, 7 shutout innings thus far, 1-0. He rings up Gary Carter on an appeal to end the top of the 7th.
Well, doesn't that make you be reminiscent of the '86 playoffs, the one you did, Timmy, with Mike Scott out there, totally baffling Carter? Dropped down. Looked like he came from something we'll see tomorrow night with Dave Cohn from Laredo with a curveball.
Mike Scioscia at the plate. Scioscia, Hamilton, and Griffin in the bottom of the 7th inning. Dodgers on top 1-0. We were talking about the irony of Harry Wendelstedt being back of the plate. It's an amazing double quinella here tonight. You've got the 2 umpires who perpetuated the 2 pitchers' streaks, and everybody's in the park as Scioscia grounds one down the right field line into the corner. Fielded by Strawberry, and Scioscia on his way to second, in with a double. A leadoff double here in the 7th inning for the Dodger catcher. Their first hit since the 1st inning.
Scioscia not having what you call an off year, but it's maybe a little disappointing for him. Just rifles one down, not a pull hitter. Guy hits the ball back up the middle. You see Rick Dempsey, cheerleader for years with the Orioles, acquired by the Dodgers. Very happy with the result.
Mike not a fast runner, but slowed even further because of his left heel. As a matter of fact, he's wearing a high-top shoe on his left foot with a hole in the back of it to give that Achilles tendon some breathing room. You can look for a bunt here.
You can look for a bunt here, and if he's successful, you can look for another bunt, perhaps with Griffin on deck.
Got to be a better bunt with Scioscia on second base.
Breaking ball. Hamilton takes it for a strike, and the count 0-1. Close-up look there at that specially constructed shoe. Scioscia to his lead at second. Nobody out. This will do the job. He swings away and grounds it to Hernandez, and it advances Scioscia. So that's as good as a bunt, though you don't get a sacrifice. It's a time at bat for Hamilton. 1 down, and now, very contrary to the way Davey Johnson plays, Tommy Lasorda loves to squeeze.
And it doesn't matter about the speed of the runner at third base. That has nothing to do with it. In effect, it's the same mental thing as a hit and run. Eddie Stanky, who used to be the Cardinal farm director, used to talk about if you're the runner at third base, in order to keep from breaking too soon, when the pitcher delivers the ball, take 1 step back towards third and then break for home. It's up to the hitter to get the bunt down if the squeeze is on. The jump of the runner at third has nothing to do with it. Excuse me, Jim.
Oh, that's all right. I'm just going to say that if you're a pitcher and you see him break too early, you pitch out.
Strike, 0-1.
Of course, Dwight has gone to the stretch, something that Timmy talked about earlier. Normally goes to the windup, but here, if you go to the stretch, you make the runner maybe take a little bit longer to get to home plate if there is a squeeze play.
And with a guy like Scioscia running, that could make a difference.
Major difference.
0-2.
Of course, the one thing about Dwight Gooden, we saw that graph earlier, is he does have the capabilities of striking guys out. We've seen 10 already tonight. Griffin trying to chase a high fastball, looking maybe for a fly ball, but that's a tough pitch to get on top of.
Scioscia at third. Joey Amalfitano is the coach. 1 out in the 7th. 1-0 Dodgers. 1-2.
Possibility of the squeeze diminishes somewhat because it's 2 strikes on Griffin, and if the Mets elect to pitch out, it's not going to really hurt them there.
Slapped foul, still a ball and 2 strikes.
And when you're on the mound in this situation, you're trailing 1-0. You got the pitcher coming up next. You know he's going to be hitting, mainly because you're not taking him out of the game. They're not going to pinch hit. You're thinking strike out. You're going to make your pitch. Even if you walk Griffin, you still have the pitcher coming up, which if you get him out, that's the 2nd out, and then you work for sacks. So I think Gooden's really going to try to make the perfect pitch here. Whether he'll be able to do it or not is another case.
It looks to me like he's going to try to stay up to get Griffin to swing through that high fastball and pop it up.
Of course, we go back to May. Griffin went on the DL, got hit by a good high fastball.
Right.
A little bit of intimidation here.
Hit into right field, base hit over the drawn-in infield. 2-0. Stayed up, and Griffin got it up over Backman.
Just a terrific job of hitting by Alfredo Griffin. As you look at a guy with not only a catcher's mentality, but a terrific guy, Roy Campanella.
The Dodger catcher of the past, looking on as a Dodger catcher of the present, makes it 2-0 scoring.
He got the ball up, but he didn't get it in. And, of course, that's where he would have liked to have got it. The ball ran over the middle of the plate. Griffin coming into this game only 199, a little bit better from the left side. Which is the hand that was really the side it doesn't affect by the broken hand. Fights it off.
Yeah, he didn't have, I mean, a pitcher and a catcher's job, Jim, as you and I both know, is to keep the ball off the fat part of the bat. Gooden did that. Griffin just a good piece of hitting.
Now Hershiser up there to bunt. Griffin at first base with 1 out.
When a pitcher gets up there to bunt too quickly like that, you might think that he's thinking about swinging the bat and not bunting to draw the infielders in. You don't know what Hershiser's going to do. He handles the bat very, very well.
Up there to bunt and takes inside, ball 1-0.
All the Dodger pitchers work on that, getting the bat out in front of home plate, which is a very important part of bunting. That way, if you do bunt the ball down, you don't hit the plate, but also swinging away from that position.
And again, Hershiser, we mentioned it before, relevant here, 19 sacrifices this season, tying Rick Russell for the league lead. 2-0. Well, you knew that reaction was coming.
Well, they say when the bunt's on, you throw it up and in. And that's where it was. And as the pitcher, Hershiser, it really depends who you're trying to sacrifice over. A guy like Alfredo Griffin, who would run, is a lot easier than a slow-footed catcher. Right, Timmy?
Right, Timmy.
Timmy who? Strike with Griffin going. Throw in time. So on a 2-0 pitch, they send Griffin. The pitch is a strike taken by Hershiser, and Carter guns him down 2-6.
Tell you, it looked to me like the tag came down on the foot of Griffin when he was in at second base. He looks to see what Hershiser's going to do. Nope, they had him. Good call. Looked like he slid and stopped, didn't he, Jim?
The next pitch is in for a strike, and the count 2-2. So 2 out. Base is empty. Low ball 3, 3-2. And that's grounded to short. Johnson throws out Hershiser. Gooden escapes further damage, but the Dodgers get a big insurance run on 2 hits. And at the end of 7, Dodgers 2, Mets nothing.
The term slide means exactly that when you go into your slide, you're supposed to continue. This is more of a stop than a slide. Watch him stop. See, there's no slide there, and that allows Johnson to make the tag.
So they took care of Griffin, and then Hershiser bounced out. 2-0 Dodgers as we go to the 8th inning. Oral Hershiser, who has not been scored on since August 30th, facing Backman, and then the Mets have to go to the bench to hit for Gooden, followed by Wilson. Strike. We mentioned before, we were talking about Wendelstedt and the amazing double Quinella here tonight. Paul Runge is the right field umpire. There he is, and he is a man who at Candlestick Park during Hershiser's streak made a call on Brett Butler for sliding out of the base path that cost the Giants a run and helped to prolong Hershiser's streak. And, of course, the other part of that double Quinella is Don Drysdale himself, a Dodger broadcaster, and there he is. So you've got the 2 pitchers 20 years apart who both had incredible streaks perpetuated by umpires' calls and the 2 umpires working the game tonight. Amazing. Oh, 0-2 the count on Backman. 1-2. And I'll bet you a few of the fans were here for Drysdale as well. The Dodgers don't turn over too many season tickets. If you have a prime location here, you keep renewing over and over and over. Fouled away. Still 1-2.
They go on the will.
Just like New York Giant football tickets. San Francisco Opera tickets.
Yeah, right.
I knew you'd get back to culture.
In the bullpen, that's Jay Howell and Jesse Orozco. If nothing else, just getting in some work behind Hershiser. Squibb foul, still a ball and 2 strikes.
I talked earlier about the fact he doesn't throw between starts. He said he's done it twice this year. He had a little bit of mechanical problems. But he said the very reason I don't do it is I know I'm going to pitch a lot of innings. He's led the National League in innings pitched this year. Tied with Danny Jackson, who also won 23 games for win and complete games. So he knows and he wants to be out there in late innings. Usually a good sinker ball sinker. He sinks more late in the ball game. Might lose a little velocity, but what he's done has been able to make the big pitch when he's had to. And the pitch selection's been outstanding. We talked about that earlier, Tim.
Got it. 6 strikeouts. 1 out in the 8th inning, and now Len Dykstra comes up to bat for Dwight Gooden.
Looks like a backdoor slider. In other words, you bring your curveball out over the plate and you try to catch the outside corner to an opposite hitter from what Hershiser throw, right to left-hander.
You think it was by design, Jim? A lot of times I know you squeeze the ball a little tighter. You're trying to throw the good curve. You throw a slop curve. It backs up, and that fools the hitter as much as the good one does.
And that definitely did. That's where Wally didn't want that pitch to be a strike, but it was.
Because it was not in a predictable location. And neither is Len Dykstra because he's not starting tonight.
Mookie Wilson has won that job, at least for the past few weeks he's won it. And Dykstra stewing on the bench and relegated to pinch hitting roles, and Randy Myers is throwing in the bullpen. He'll come in the bottom of the 8th inning. No balls, 1 strike on Dykstra. Oral Hershiser. As a kid, he played hockey. He might be the second most famous hockey player in Los Angeles right now. We'll give Gretzky #1 for the moment. And Hershiser, who played for a junior team for the Philadelphia Flyers as a youth. 2-1 the count.
Here you've got, we saw Magic Johnson earlier. The Lakers won it this year. The Dodgers could win everything. The Rams are 4-1. Wayne Gretzky might be playing on the only loser in L.A. After all the Stanley Cups he played on.
UCLA and SC, tremendous college football teams. It's amazing how cities really get into sports grooves. 3-1 the count. I think the second biggest cheer tonight, next to what Hershiser's been getting ovation-wise, would have been for Magic Johnson. Between the 6th and 7th innings, they put his picture up on the message board, a live shot from the stands. 3-2. And all it said underneath was Magic. As if the crowd might have thought it was Magic Schwartz or somebody, right? That's all you needed. Magic. And Hershiser doing his magic right now. 3-2.
Excuse me, this is what that one extra run can give you, is a chance to challenge right now. There's no curveball. This is the fastball.
And Dykstra walks, and that's news. That's the first walk given up by Hershiser tonight.
You know, the interesting thing about the lineup that Davy Johnson put out there is that this is his offensive lineup. And so far they've been blank. When we talk about that, that means Howard Johnson plays shortstop, Kevin Elster. Of course, as Timmy said, Hershiser trying to throw the ball right down the middle. He knows that Dykstra can't beat him. And I'm sure Tommy Lasorda wasn't very happy with that really pitch, not the pitch selection, because he threw the fastball, as you said, he just couldn't get it over.
Mookie Wilson is 1 for 3 tonight. Hit .296 during the regular season. It's a grounder, speared by Griffin. Double play. After 7.5, the Dodgers and Lasorda on top 2-0. Hershiser towels off after taking care of the Mets in the top of the 8th.
Well, he walks Dykstra, but then he makes the great pitch, the sinker away. As I said, he doesn't even have to worry about when the ball's hit to Griffin. He turns 2, and you're on the bench. Think Tommy's happy? Just what I told you to do. Throw that sinker away and throw those grounders.
And back to what we said at the beginning, a far more important game tonight for the Dodgers to win than the Mets. The Mets go back and say, okay, we lose to Hershiser. We're down 1-0. It's still a long enough series. We've beaten these guys 10 out of 11 in the regular season, but had the Dodgers gone down to defeat, a whole other story. 2-0 LA. Bottom of the 8th inning is Sachs. Starts with a grounder to short. Corralled by Johnson. 1 away. Randy Myers is the new pitcher. Len Dykstra stays in the game. There's Myers. He'll hit in Mookie Wilson's spot. Terrific year with a 1.72 ERA. And Dykstra stays in the game. Lenny hits in the number 9 spot with Gooden out of the game. So Sachs taken care of for the first out here in the 8th. And batting for Stubbs with the lefty now on the mound will be Tracy Woodson, who can play third or first. One of the Dodgers' stuntmen. That's what the fellas on the bench are known as.
Yeah, they said that stuntmen are anonymous when they make movies. That's what we are, but we certainly did have a great part in getting him here to the playoffs.
Strike, 0-1.
This is a smart move. When you look at the two guys that we're most likely going to see throughout this playoff series, as regular first baseman, you're looking at Mickey Hatcher and Franklin Stubbs, but Woodson, a much better defensive first baseman than Hatcher, so he's in there for his offense now and defense in the bottom of the 9th, or excuse me, the top of the 9th.
Hernandez down the line, and he makes the catch in foul territory for the second out. When the Mets come up in the top of the 9th inning now, it'll be Jeffries, Hernandez, and Strawberry. So they're very much where they'd like to be, 2, 3, and 4 in the order. Dave Johnson, who guided this team to the World Series title in 1986, finishing his 5th year, and again over 90 games once more, this time an even 100.
The only National League manager to ever do that, win over 90 or more games his first 5 years. The American League manager to do it was Al Lopez. He did it back in the early 50s during the 154-game schedule, which was probably even a greater achievement back then.
Two guys from Florida, Johnson and Lopez. Gibson tries to bunt his way on in the count. 0-1, hamstring problem and all. still trying to bunt for a base hit.
I think that's a bad play. I mean, you can pop the ball out of the ballpark. Gibson has more home runs against left-handed pitching than he does against right-handed pitching. 2 out, nobody on. He's trying to bunt his way on. Let's leave it up to the next guy.
And you also may aggravate your hamstring.
Yeah. I think that's a bad play.
Of course, it also says something about Randy Myers' ability. 95-mile-per-hour fastball and a great slider.
Well, that's true, but I mean, by
I understand what you're saying. I agree with you.
You don't want to, not that Kirk is the type of give-up player by any means, but I just think it's a bad technical play to be bunting with 2 out, nobody on. If you pop 1 out, you lengthen the lead.
And he loops that one in foul territory toward the dugout. Here comes Jeffries. Look out into the Dodger dugout. He makes the catch and is cradled by Woodson. And the last time we saw that, George Brett was sliding into the dugout in St. Louis in the 1985 World Series, and he's fine. So a very anxious moment, but another look right now at Jeffries. What a catch.
You notice the Dodgers aren't helping him at all, because if they go up to try to help him and he drops the ball, then Gibson's out. Gibson's out anyway because Greg holds on to the ball.
2-0 as we go to the 9th. Al Michaels, Jim Palmer, Tim McCarver, 9th inning of Game 1, 2-0 Los Angeles. And Jeffries to lead off for the Mets, taking outside. That's the 91st pitch thrown by Hershiser. This is almost a dreamlike game for Lasorda and the Dodgers to this point. On the verge of a victory and a pretty low pitch count, but Jeffries whacks it into center field for a base hit. And we say a dreamlike thing for Lasorda to this point, because what he'd like to do is bring Hershiser back on 3 days rest Saturday. But now he's got another thing to worry about, namely the ball game. Leadoff man on 3 hits for Jeffries tonight.
That ball rifled by him, and how about that? A rookie's first game. He probably feels like Steve Sachs back in 1981. Played in the World Series and the playoffs, and then was Rookie of the Year in '82. The outfielders being reminded now to throw the ball to second base, as the Mets had their rally caps on, and they need it.
And here's Hernandez, and you can see with Jeffries at first base, Woodson, who is the new first baseman for the Dodgers, can take the liberty of playing behind him. The tying run at the plate, and he's going to go and exploit it, and it's hit down to Woodson, who makes the play at first base. So he was playing behind him, and Jeffries figured, why not go to second?
Jeffries is off the bag, Al. Pardon me. He thought it was a line drive. He wanders off the bag.
For the moment, he's a lucky guy right now.
Wow.
Well, they're lucky in a couple of respects. That's a double play ball if he's not going, but then again, he almost gets himself out. Right now, he needs to pick up one of the coaches. They're going to give him some help. Alfredo's not going to do it.
Yeah, he probably thinks it's a line drive now. Alfredo is waving, and now he's missed that the throw wasn't made in time.
I'll tell you what, he'll learn a lesson, and he didn't get burned by doing it. Next time you pick up a coach.
You don't ask the opposing,
No.
you don't ask the opposing players. They rarely tell the truth.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if they're from the Dominican Republic. And you don't speak the same. Maybe Alfredo does speak English, but not in that case.
He thought for the moment he was doubled off at first base on a line drive. So 1 out. Here's Strawberry. 1-0 the count.
Boy, this is a tough situation for Hershiser, because I think he realizes, and Jeffries is a good example, when he gets the ball in the middle of the plate, doesn't make the good pitches, the ball gets hit hard. We've seen that numerous occasions. When he makes good pitches, he can get guys out. But also, this is the tying run at home plate here. Not the winning run, but the tying run. A guy that hit 39 home runs. You want to make great pitches, but can he do it?
He threw breaking balls behind in the count his last at bat. We'll see if he does it again.
The 1-0 pitch is a fastball for a strike. 1-1.
Of course, if you're a pitcher, you always know who's on deck. If you take a look at Jamie Hershiser, Oral's wife, but if you're a pitcher, you know who's on deck. Next guy just hit 29 home runs with 99 RBIs. So you don't pitch around Strawberry in this case.
McReynolds waiting next. Jeffries at second with 1 out of the 9th inning.
this time up. Darrell did get Hershiser in a really hitter situations, but swung in a 2-1 curveball.
Low, 2-1.
A guy that's now pitched, what, 68 in the third straight scoreless innings, or excuse me, 66 in his third? 67, pardon me. That's why I can't add.
Two and two.
Strawberry, a very anxious hitter. And if I'm Hershiser, I'm thinking about going out of the strike zone to get him out right now. That curveball, if you remember, when Hershiser was talking earlier to you, Al, earlier this afternoon, he was talking about the curveball out of the strike zone down. It's a good time for it right now.
And Scioscia's going to visit the mound right now with a very important pitch.
You know, that's a better thing to do than to just go through the whole series of signs, because the worst thing as a pitcher is to have to get the pitch you want, but to shake off 2 or 3 signs to get there. Go out there, ask him, do it in a hurry. You know, ask him how he's feeling, too. You know, that might make a lot to do with what he calls.
The Darrell chant mocking version reverberates through Dodger Stadium with the count 2-2.
Mets bench literally trying to turn the game around.
And Lasorda ready to reach for the antacid.
Right, this could be the series of the dueling antacid managers.
Right. And these guys won division titles. What about the other guys? 2-2 on Strawberry. Sport fouls it off.
You know, we talked many times about what counts do to a pitcher's psyche. You don't want to go 3-2. 2-2 is a lot better count, because if you do miss, you still have an option. 3-2, you feel like with the situation of the tying run at home plate, the winning run on deck, maybe you have to throw a strike. That's not a good idea when you guys hit 39 home runs. You'd like to get Strawberry out, as you said, out of the strike zone.
Line into right center for a base hit. That will score a run. The Dodger outfield very deep, and Strawberry will take advantage by sliding into second with a double. So Jeffries comes in to score to make it 2-1, and the tying run is now at second base. And the Dodger infield, or outfield, backs up with Strawberry at the plate. And as Shelby surrounded it, Strawberry is able to take the extra base.
I'll tell you, in fairness to the Dodger outfielders, you're playing back to prevent the double, but because they were back, that caused the double. Because Shelby had to range too far to his left, and once Strawberry saw that momentary bobble, boom, he's into second base. Not even close.
And now, with a tying run at second, the Dodgers sending Perinoski to the mound. They're also going to put Jose Gonzalez in the game in left field in what could be a double switch, with McReynolds coming up. Again, the ball bobbled. And Hershiser's going to come out of the game. The ovation for Orel. the right-hand hitting McReynolds coming up to the bullpen for right-hander Jay Howell. As the Mets score here in the ninth, still only one out as Howell comes in, 2-1 Dodgers. Hershiser masterful tonight, but turns it over now to Jay Howell in his first year with the Dodgers. Here's the inside pitch from Mike Schmidt.
For me, Jay Howell might be the toughest right-handed closer in the league. And it's because he's what we call effectively wild. He could come in and throw the ball anywhere at any time and then paint the outside corner on you 2 or 3 pitches in a row and strike you out. His favorite pitch is his hard curve, but what he must do is come into the game and establish that he can throw strikes with that 90-plus mile-an-hour fastball so that he can go to that curveball and strike the hitter out. Jay's a good fielder. One thing you want to watch, though, is he doesn't hold runners on that well. He's got a big kick going to home plate. That could work to his disadvantage. He's going to be easy to steal on.
And he has Darryl Strawberry as the tying run at second base. It wouldn't figure that Strawberry would try to steal third, but you never know.
But he can. I mean, he has 29 steals on the year, but I don't think he's a great base runner, but he has great speed.
It's a good time to steal third. With one out, you get on third base and score on something other than a hit.
Of course, if he gets thrown out, it's the story of the game. Pitches outside. Hershiser yields his first run since the 30th of August. Meanwhile, Jay Howell has not allowed a hit since the 29th of August. There's Jose Gonzalez in left field on the double switch. But Howell, in his last 7 appearances through the month of September, did not give up a hit. And McReynolds fouls it off to the right out of play. 1-1. And the Dodgers during the offseason, their first priority, get somebody to come out of the bullpen to close it out. And they got 2 guys. They got Orozco, who, as it turns out now, is more of a left-handed specialist, and Howell, who is the true closer.
And that he is. After elbow surgery, there was some doubt, but he's come back. 70 strikeouts in 65 innings, so he is overpowering.
Sort of parking at Wendelstedt wanted that pitch. And Hershiser can just sit and wait.
So we said McReynolds, in a great year, 288, 29 home runs, 99 RBIs. Howell, the type of guy that can throw the ball in his towel out over the plate and still get him out.
In the dirt, 3-1.
Good play by Socha. Mike did not go after that ball like he should go after it, but he went after it with his glove and fortunately made the play. A very, very good play by Socha. On the breaking ball, you're anticipating it being in the dirt, so you can easily get your body in front of it. Never subscribe to that theory you can get your body in front of a fastball because it's up there too quickly. Good play by Socha.
3-1 to McReynolds, ball 4. Tying run and go-ahead run on base. And now Howard Johnson comes up.
Shortstop, Howard Johnson.
And it's fastball pitcher against fastball hitter here.
Not only that, Howard Johnson batting 182 from the right side and 250 from the left side. There again, we get back to the better pitcher is Jay Howell. Tommy Lasorda playing the hot hand regardless of which way Johnson has his power.
Because the point is well taken here. If Orozco was a true closer in the sense that Howell is right now, you'd bring in Orozco and turn Johnson around right-handed. But he entrusts Howell with the game with 1 out and 2 on in the 9th inning. And he struts him with a breaking pitch. 5-1.
Of course, the Mets are a team in postseason play. They have gone in the 9th inning trailing 13 times. They've come back and won those games 4 out of those 13 times, which doesn't seem much. I mean, it's like 30% of the time, but the rest of the percentage is down under like 10%.
So, that's a lot when you compare them to the Dodgers, I'll tell you that.
Off speed for a strike, 1-1.
In the history of postseason play, the Dodgers have come back when they were trailing in the 8th inning 1 time in 61 games. So the Mets are 4-9. The Dodgers are 1-60.
1 ball and 1 strike. Ran it in on him. He's thrown him 3 off-speed pitches. Throws him a breaking ball here on the hands, and it's 1-2.
Well, scouting is such an important part. I mean, you play against this team, maybe not as important as it is during the World Series, but it's obvious that Jay Howell would like to get Howard Johnson out with a curveball or the breaking ball.
I have never thought about this, but Jay Howell looks like Steve Howe. He looks like a right-handed Steve Howe.
And since the days of Steve Howe, the Dodgers have searched and searched for somebody to close out ball games. So just to add a pair of L's, turn them around from the right side, and the 1-2 pitch is another breaking ball, and Johnson just gets a piece of it.
Well, that's 4 in a row. As you look at 4 breaking balls in a row, now that's great. This is his weakness. You see from that graphic, he's a good 9th inning hitter. Most of them probably came on either hanging breaking balls. This ball is about belt high. Now, you throw a guy 4 in a row and make a mistake, the chances of him hitting it are a lot greater, but Howell's strength is high, good hard fastball and a good sharp breaking curveball. Usually don't hang a curveball like that and get away with it. The tighter the spin, the better chance of doing it.
Got him on a curve. So a fastball pitcher against a fastball hitter, and he never throws a fastball.
Well, Mike Schmidt hit the nail on the head. Look where his head is on this curveball. Now he's seen this is the 5th in a row. Can't keep that shoulder in. Can't, and that's what it all is.
He can, though.
Yeah. For obvious reasons.
So now Carter comes to the plate. The Mets with a tying and go-ahead runs at first and second, and both are great base runners. Strawberry with his great speed at second, and McReynolds, who stole 21 bases this season without being caught, is at first. And Davy Johnson looks on as Carter gets ready to come to the plate after Socha confers with Howell.
You could understand why the outfield was deep with Strawberry hitting. I can't understand why the outfield is this deep with Gary Carter hitting. They're playing deep because they're defending against the Gary Carter of 5 years ago and his reputation, not this year.
Curve again, 0-1. The hook again.
It's only 7 in a row. What did Mike say? Should say he's got to come in and establish his curveball. I think he has.
Line to center field, and with the outfield deep, Shelby can't make the catch as Strawberry comes in to score, and McReynolds is being waved in, and the throw to Socha. Socha blocks the plate, but without the ball, and McReynolds is saved. And with the Dodger outfield deep for Carter, it cost him, as Shelby just falls short of coming up with it.
Second baseman.
3-2 Mets.
I'll tell you, when a pitcher and a catcher conspire to keep the good part off the good part of the bat off the ball, it doesn't do any good if your outfielders don't cooperate. Watch this collision between Kevin McReynolds and Mike Socha. Man, that's a big league collision right there.
Socha's great strength is blocking the plate, but they've gotten so pansy about protecting middle infielders. I just can't believe that you can allow a catcher to stand up the line like that without the ball.
Backman swinging and missing. Here's Johnson's reaction, and again, Tim pointed it out before the play. The outfield was playing Carter's reputation, not the present-day Carter. The count, and it's fouled at the plate. Now the Dodgers, down by a run and looking ahead to the bottom of the ninth inning, have Marshall, Shelby, and Sosa due up. Carter at second, 2 down, 0-2 the count. And a breaking pitch is hit down to Sachs. And the inning is over, but the Mets get 3. And at the end of 8 1/2, it's the Mets 3 and the Dodgers 2. So the Mets on top by a score of 3-2, down to their last strike, and then this off Carter's bat.
Well, the tying and winning or go-ahead run, John Shelby with a great effort out center field, but here where he makes a mistake, he hesitates. Now you'll see the throw. Sosa up the line, blocking the plate without the ball, which is one of his strengths, as I said. But Kevin McReynolds, I'll tell you what, we got linebacker versus linebacker.
Oh, man.
You don't get his way, yes.
And Carter's reaction in the dugout.
When a catcher's in the baseline like that, that's the only thing a runner can do. You can't slide out of the baseline. If you notice, Sosa was straddling the line, and McReynolds' only alternative was to ram right into him, and that's what he did.
And so the Mets with 3, and now the Dodgers with Marshall, Shelby, and Sosa due up against Myers in the bottom of the ninth inning. And the Mets make a change. They move Kevin Elster in at shortstop, and there he is, taking over for Howard Johnson, and he's right into the game, catching a line drive for the out. 1 pitch and 1 out in the ninth inning. And now John Shelby coming up.
Well, Davey Johnson with his defensive alignment. This is the lineup he will most likely use with Ron Darling pitches on Friday. We talked about it earlier. And I mean, what you said about the Dodgers in 61 postseason play have only come back 1 time.
One time.
That shows you what they've done. This would be the 5th time, so they're 50 percentile. And they hold on to win.
That one time was one of the most famous games in baseball history when Cookie Lavagitto not only won the game in the '47 World Series, but broke up Bill Bevan's no-hit bid. And that was the one. It was a pretty good one. (0-2) on Shelby.
Well, John, a natural right-handed hitter, hit more home runs from the left side this time, but I think he's a much better hitter this way. Doesn't get to hit as much. More right-handed pitchers in the league than left-handers. Very dangerous from this side.
And he grounds it down to second, and Backman will throw him out. And Dempsey will come up to bat for Sosa.
I'll tell you, Randy Myers, in going over to first base, almost ran into Hernandez. Hernandez didn't realize how close he was. It shocked Keith. But Keith's the one guy that Myers will turn to in late-inning situations. He expects Hernandez to come over and tell him after every pitcher, after every hitter. Watch Myers. Now, you're going to the right side. Now, watch Myers. He almost runs into Hernandez. The three, the runner, Myers, and Hernandez, almost converge, and Keith turns around and says, "What are you doing over here?"
Well, something we pointed out many times during the Monday night games is how important Keith Hernandez is, and when he was out for, 6-7 weeks with a hamstring pull, they missed that. And he's like having a pitching coach in your infield. What should I throw? I mean, here's a guy that won a batting championship, MVP.
Rick Dempsey now swinging and missing in the count 0-1. So there's the MVP of the 1983 World Series, playing with Baltimore against Philadelphia, fighting for a backup job. In the spring, he won it, and he, in essence, has been platooned with Sosa. And he bats for Mike here. And And this game, and as the ninth inning started, I said this was a dream for Tom Lasorda. 2-0 lead. Hershiser in the 90s in pitches, bring him back on 3 days, and that dream has now gone to a terrible nightmare with 2 out of the ninth inning. And a fly ball to shallow right field, and Backman backs up and gives the Mets a 1-0 lead in the series.